Well, good evening, everybody. DH Thorne coming at you live with another beautiful Thursday evening stream. It's rather peaceful out here where I'm at. Pretty quiet. Pretty decent weather the last couple of days. Turn the viewer count on there. There we go. All right, 13 people already right off the bat. Sound is good according to my little co-host wifey there. So, what's on everybody's mind tonight? What's everybody thinking about? Have you guys been paying attention to everything going on? You having fun? George Toggins is here. He says, see y'all later tonight, most likely. Raquel, I guess he was here earlier. Raquel Kelly says, good evening, super awesome DH, beautiful Camilla, infernal blessings to all. Kelly Meadows says, good evening. Looking forward to listening to this when I get off later, work later tonight. Very good. Atropa, what's up, Atropa? Christian's here. Aliens, he's a little scared looking. Don't worry, they're here to probe Uranus. It's fine. Gogo says, hey, legend, what's up? Greetings from Croatia. How you doing, Gogo? And Jason's here. Happy Thorns Day. Get your popcorn. That's right. Especially with all the wonderful stuff going on. Hit me up in an email so we can set up our next chat appointment. I think you're paid up. Let me know. Tomorrow I got stuff going on, but maybe Saturday or we can do it another day this week coming up whenever you want. So yeah, cool. Jay Baldale, good evening and happy dark moon. What's up? Solora S, hello everybody with a, looks like some kind of a, if I had to say, that looks like a creature from the Black Lagoon wearing headphones. I don't know, looks cool. Badash Philosophy says, here he is. Good evening, Mr. Thorne. Yes, indeed, here I am. Damian Draco, what's up, brother? I haven't seen you in a bit. Let's see. Yeah. Whew. There we go. I got my new hat on. Twisted Jack says, we come to probe. I mean, in peace. You know, if they ask to see our leader right now, just let me be the spokesman. I'll explain to them. Now's not the time. All right. So I don't know. Have you guys been paying much attention to some of this stuff? If you haven't, I bet you a lot of you guys don't know about this, but just yesterday, the Mexican government held a conference in Congress, in their Congress, with a bunch of scientists from a couple places that some of them were Russian, that had been to Peru and in 2017 recovered several bodies, several corpses, which they did extensive tests on, and they are staking their basically their careers as scientists, that they have three alien corpses, about 60 centimeters tall, which they classify as either avian or reptilian, most likely reptilian. With one of them was a female, presumably. It had what looks like eggs in its abdomen. They did a complete analysis of the DNA, the bones, the cranial things, all of it. And they came to the conclusion that there's no way these could be faked. They are too intricate. They are too detailed. There's DNA in them, which 70% of which is completely alien to this planet. There's no known sequence for it. The structure, the orthopedic structure of the bones, though it is humanoid, betrays almost no connection to how most animals on this planet evolve and develop. Unlike us, which our forearms have an ulna and a radius, and our shins have a tibia and a fibia, they only have one tube-like bone in the middle that basically it's hollow. The joints all seem to be a little bit like finger joints. That is to say, they're not, unlike the wrist or whatever, I don't know how they rotate it or if they do at all. But they only have 3 fingers on each hand. All kinds of cool stuff. So if you Google this right now, just Google Mexican alien bodies, and I'm sure you'll have a rabbit hole quite interesting to look into. Of course, there's already some skeptical responses, which is required and important. Some people are saying that that the physiology of these beings, especially the bone structure, is completely, shall we say, a terrible design. Nothing should evolve that way. But the scientists who did the research on this, who studied these bodies, they looked at the wear and tear on the bones, and the bones show absolutely no sign that they were faked. They show wear and tear. They show certain things in the cervical spine area, which is up by the neck. Yes, I know all these terms because I have an IQ of 140, by the way. I know, I'm a dick about that. I'm compensating, as some would say. The cervical spine of them actually has, and some other areas, the anterior and the abdominal region of the spine, has signs of wear and tear that would only happen from actual, life. In particular, one of them has what looks like, because the female was pregnant with these eggs, it looks like the spine was shifted a little bit because of it. Little details like that you wouldn't know to fake. Nobody would know to fake, or a few people would know how to fake anyway. The rib cage is interesting because it's like a tubular torso. The ribs aren't connected to a sternum, which normally your ribs on most animals on Earth, especially mammals, you have a sternum or a breastbone, and the ribs curve up and attach to it. And certain other species like reptiles, and you have a few floating ribs that don't connect, but most of your ribs connect. Certain reptilians like snakes, their ribs don't connect because they have to open up all the way. Well, these are like just rings going around their body to the spine, and the spine doesn't have a spinal cord in it. The spinal cord is actually interior, along the interior part of the spinal column. The heads look a fuck ton like the aliens from the old Close Encounters movie. For those of you guys who have ever seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, in particular, there's this one alien that comes out. It's like really tall, looks just like it. Now, remember, they're 60 centimeters tall, which is not quite a meter, okay? So a meter's 4 feet, give or take. 60 centimeters is, 6/10 of a meter. So figure probably about like this big, probably about maybe 3 feet tall, 2 feet tall, tops. So pretty short. About the size of a small child, I guess. So very fascinating, very interesting. And, it's one of those things where, like I've been saying for a while now, I have no doubt that there's aliens. I have very little doubt that they've been here. And I have less and less doubt all the time about even the ancient alien stuff. I'm going to admit that my opinion's changing, This time last year, I was like, aliens didn't build the pyramids. Don't give me that shit. I still don't think aliens built the pyramids, but I'm starting to realize that to think that human beings just happened, the way we think, that's obviously BS. Did we evolve? Probably not. It looks like what happened was somebody came along and took the best of all the hominid species, GMO'd our ass, however they did it with breeding or genetics, and then maybe spliced a little of their own secret sauce into us. And that's how we got us, Are Nordic aliens real? Are they all grays? Are they reptiles? Are there like 500 different species of aliens according to the Hindu scripture? Yeah, maybe. Are these guys one of them? Probably. Are they the mysterious chupacabra? Well, there's evidence for why that could be, because by the look of it, they had a liquid diet. They didn't eat solid food, according to what they saw in the mouth and all of this. They look like they drank food, not ate food. So are they the mysterious chupacabra? Are they even intelligent? Although they had a huge brain, are they even intelligent? So, fuck if I know, guys, but it looks like the psyop to get you ready for War of the Worlds is accelerating. Today, they just had, NASA just did this press conference with this total dipshit. Talking about, he seemed like such a stuffy old guard jackass, the guy that they had. I didn't watch it. I watched maybe 5 minutes of it. And I was just like, I have to turn this off. This guy's just going to make me sick. He's maybe, just shut up. Just give me somebody who isn't so out of date that they think that a cell phone is, you know, a thing that you have to hook into your car because they're too big. So they came out today talking about, and they didn't really, to my knowledge, say anything important. Something about how they're going to be doing more research or whatever, and they're going to be, they have some conclusions about the UAPs and stuff. But all of this is very, very well timed. Now, the question is this happening according to a predetermined schedule that, you know, they were going to lead us into this War of the Worlds psyop to get us all to unite and, you know, come together with the New World Order? Or is this part of of the D class, like what the, you know, the Q people talk about? Is this part of that? Are we being shown some of the stuff that's being kept from us? Is this some kind of a combination? Is this white hats? You know, like, what is this? You know, I think it's, I don't think we can say. My hunch is that it is truth. My hunch is that this is probably true. This is probably real aliens or something, you know, maybe it's just an alien species, right? Now, what is that? What's the difference? When we think of aliens, we think of little green men coming down on UFOs and walking around shooting stuff with phaser beams and stuff. These could be some kind of a, you know, species that was left here. You know, maybe it's like a pet of an alien or something. Because it doesn't show up in any fossil record. It's completely alien. And if it is real, which to me, being a non-expert, my gut says it's real. My gut says these are probably real. I'm going to say 85%, which is enough for me to bank on, you know? So these are probably real. And, you know, what's the agenda here? Is there an agenda? Again, white hats, black hats, which is it? So let me know in the comments. I'll check in a minute. Let me know in your comments, or if you're watching this later, let me know in the comments what you think it is. Do you think this is legit aliens, or do you think that this is just more psyop bullshit? Or is it both? It can be both, by the way, because the very best lies are always 80% truth, 90% truth. It's that 20%, that 10% lie that screws you over, or the lie by omission, the lie by structure, the lie by inclusion even. There's a lot of different ways to lie that don't require blatant lies. You don't have to say, you know, up is down for it to be a lie. You know, you could say, oh yeah, up, you know, and there's a wall there, you can't go, you know. So there's ways to lie without actually lying, without actually telling a lie. There's ways to deceive that don't necessarily involve open deception. So my gut is saying this is true, but that this, don't get your hopes up. I have a lot of people that I know on Facebook and some other things. They are so excited about the alien topic. They're so biased and predisposed to believe in it that their normal skepticism of authority, their normal doubt and distrust of authority is going out the window, because they so badly want this all to be real and true and to be vindicated and be proven right, that instead of being wary of this, they're doubling down all the way on it, saying, this is real, this is the D class we've been waiting for, let it all pour out, this is the truth, you know, soon the aliens will come and save us all. Now, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. In fact, according to some things I've seen, there's evidence for why they could be right. The Pleiadians may be coming to rescue us, or they may already be here. You know, I actually had this weird, this one might get me a little bit of trouble to say, but I don't give a fuck, because you know, people would have to read into it wrong to misinterpret it. But somebody, I had seen a picture of Maria Orsic, and if you don't know who that is, look it up. And I noticed something. There was a very vague similarity to Melania. And I'm sitting here like, no, I'm not saying it is at all. By the way, this is, you hear the laughter in my voice. Like this is like a troll a little bit. Is Melania Maria Orsic? I don't think so, but it was one of those, like, wouldn't that be some shit? Wouldn't that be some shit if it's just the same people all over again doing shit. And I know that would make a lot of people on the far left very excited because they love accusing, you know, the people on the right of being Nazis. That would just make their fucking day if it was. So I don't think it is. But there was like a weird vibe because I've noticed, you know, a certain tendency for world leaders to have a queen, if you know what I mean. So in chess, you have the king. The king is pretty helpless, right? The king can't do shit by himself. He can move one space at a time or whatever. You know, he's pathetic. He's basically a target. And the queen is like the most powerful, one of the most powerful, depends on how you use her. One of the most powerful and important pieces on the board. And in politics, if you notice, many of world leaders, especially in America in particular, their wives, they're always portrayed as these demure nobodies, but you get this feeling like they're pulling a lot of strings in the background. Like take Joe Biden's wife, Jill Biden. She's obviously very central to what's going on with him. Whether you even think it's him or not, you know, he could be an actor right now. I think he is, personally. These are just my speculations, YouTube. Don't cancel me, bro. Just entertainment, guys. I'm just commenting. So, you know, is that the deal? Now, some of you guys who are well versed on all this stuff, not just the aliens, but the stuff about, you know, Q and Anon and all that stuff. Some of you guys who know about this know that the theory is around the time when John F. Kennedy Jr. died, is when Trump got pulled in. Now, some people are saying that he didn't die. He faked his death and he's going to reveal himself before all this is over. And I've seen some clues that that might be true. It was right around the same time that Trump got together with Melania, 1999. And of course, we know that the establishment in America, the Democrat, Republican, tried to accuse Trump of colluding with Russia to steal 2016. I don't think that they made that up out of thin air just to slander him. They went with that because I do believe Trump is somehow connected to Russia. I'm pretty confident of that. The question is, to what end? Now, I trust that end personally. My channelings, and I'm going to admit it, my diehard, not loyalty, but support of what he's been doing. A lot of that is from channeled stuff. Okay, not like, oh, I did this big thing and I got possessed and I wrote it. No, more like my intuition, the signs, and when I do readings, divination, and when I listen to that sweet silent voice inside, tells me that this, for now, is the right thing to back, right? The right side of history is behind this man at this moment. That doesn't mean he's a saint or a good guy. It doesn't mean he has your best interests at heart. It just means that for the world that I want to see, let me frame this for you guys correctly, okay? The way I look at politics and social science and all of this stuff, it is ultimately about getting across a finish line to getting what I want out of society. For everybody, but for myself included. So it's not that I sit here and go, oh, Trump's the greatest guy on earth. For me, this is a tactical or a strategic maneuver. I know that by having this man here at this time, this big giant orange monkey wrench that we threw into the system in 2016, that it would reveal the system. And it did by breaking the system. See, I know that humanity is a fucking retarded, oh, excuse me, YouTube, a ridiculous animal that does not notice things until it hurts. We have a really bad tendency as a species to not do shit until it hurts. And in your own body, you know this is true. Do you feel your guts right now? Unless you've got an illness, you don't feel your guts. They just do their thing. You don't even notice that they're there until they hurt. Humans like to ignore those things which do not cause us discomfort. So by throwing the big orange monkey wrench into the system, I knew at the time that this would disrupt it and that this would expose it by disrupting it. And boy, was I right. So I am still backing the man. for those reasons primarily. Whether I approve of all of his policies or not is irrelevant. I approve of most of them. But being a libertarian, there's things that I question. But I also know that there's a deeper story at work here. He is not just some billionaire trying to be president. I am confident that he is in collusion with the military. This is a military coup that has been conducted, and it's successful. It's been successful, and we're just watching it play out now. That's my gnosis. Whether it's true or not, I'll leave up to you and time to prove. But my personal conviction, that is what I believe. So in the coming months and years, I fully expect to see things like aliens, things like Atlantis, things like that to start becoming more and more revealed, because we're not just dealing with governments, and we're not just dealing with power brokers and oligarchs. We're dealing with mystery schools and secret societies going back, in some cases, thousands of years. One of the conspiracy theories about the Orange Man is that he is a Knight Templar. I believe that is possible. There are certain signs that show that this is very likely, or he's affiliated with them in some way. Now, that may make some of you guys go, oh, hell no. And some of you may go, oh, hell yeah. Everybody's a little different. I don't see things as tribal black and white issues. I don't look at it that way. For me, it's not, this is why doing what I do, I'm able to be friendly with, Christians, because my problem is not with the Christian faith or the Christian ideals necessarily. Some of them, perhaps. Oh, we're getting streaming issues. Yeah, we just got stream issues. My frame rate just dropped. I must be saying verboten topics. Oh, yeah, I'm pissing off the powers that be because I'm speaking my mind again. How dare I do that? How dare I do that? What's up, Patchy? Bing bong. Let me read the chat. Let me get off the subject for a minute and bring it back to somewhere where they're not going to fucking... So those of you guys who really pay attention, how often do my streams get throttled? The moment I start talking about anything edgy, politically speaking, the moment, suddenly there's all kind... Guys, I live in New York in the suburbs. We don't have internet problems here. We have some of the fastest internet in the country. I never have internet problems.
This is equivalent to having the clicking on the phone.
Yeah, this is like if you're in the government and you get clicking on the phone. Like, you know what that means, right? At least in the old days, that's what it meant. So yeah, we're getting throttled a little bit. Whew. So what's going on out there? So what is happening? I'm trying to tell you. The things that are happening, everything you're seeing is planned and staged at this point. That's not to say that there's nothing organic going on, happening in its own time, in its own way. Of course there is. But a lot of this has been already pre-gamed out. And we're sort of watching, when you watch two chess masters, right? Watch a pair of chess masters who are real masters of the game. They've got the whole game played out in their head before they even sit down. And that first move, in some cases, can decide the game. I'm not kidding. Within a few moves, they both have a game plan. They know how they're going to win. And they're actually waiting for somebody to make a mistake. That's usually more what a chess match is really all about. You're waiting for someone to mess their idea up, which is why it's so hard to beat a computer, because they usually have a plan that they don't make mistakes. You've got to fake the computer out. It's not easy to outthink it. You got to fake it out. So it thinks you're doing one thing and you do something different. And even that falls apart now with modern AI and shit, because they can predict shit so much better. So I'm talking about back in the 90s when I would occasionally beat the computer opponent. I would have to do it by making it look like I was doing something I wasn't doing. And I would get it to commit to something and I would go the other way. And it didn't work every time, but that was the only hope I ever had. So you're watching something that has been planned decades in advance. And it's playing out as if it's organic. All of these little crises, with exceptions, some of them are totally real, like I said. But a lot of these things, especially the stuff like Biden in Alaska during 9/11, that wasn't a faux pas. They sent him there to embarrass him on purpose like that. This is all happening. It's not even him anymore. I'm very confident. So a lot of these things are going to play out over the next few years. That's why I've kind of chilled out. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm not as angry or nervous or I'm still pretty attached to it. My inner shadow is still trying to get me to, attack it and control it and manipulate through it. But I'm learning to let go and just trust that my intuition is right and that the magic that I've done has worked. We'll find out within a year or two. I'm very sure of it. So we're witnessing the unfolding of all these plans. And it's going to go in a sequence. I don't know all the details. I just know the rough direction. I don't know when things are going to happen, but I know a few things have to happen before it's over. They're lining up a precipice moment, a World War III moment. They're lining up dollar collapse. And for those of you guys who are like real bad pessimists, and you figure like the New World Order won because Trump isn't president and they're prosecuting him and all this crap, let me give you one piece of information that if you are remotely savvy, you know what that means. You know it's not bad. The fact that BRICS, BRICS, is going on the gold standard should tell you everything. The New World Order does not want anyone on the gold standard. If they had America captured, we would be knocking these countries out already. The original plan was for everybody to go on central digital banking currencies following the collapse of the dollar. But they're all suddenly going to the gold standard. That one detail alone, because the gold standard is kryptonite to the New World Order. Any kind of money based on a precious commodity that holds its value, like gold and silver in particular, is kryptonite to the New World Order. They can't make up the money out of thin air. They can't make fiat money, and they can't control it the same way. Fiat money you can control through inflation and all this, but gold and silver, if you've got a lump of gold that's worth $1,000, it will be worth the equivalent of that $1,000 no matter what the economy does. It'll be very close to its value. It holds its value, whereas dollars don't. So they don't want people, let alone countries, using precious metals at all to fund to found their economies. If BRICS goes on the gold standard, they're going to skyrocket. They're going to be protected against all of the economic bullshit that the New World Order central digital banking system does. So the fact that BRICS is going on the gold standard tells you in no uncertain terms that yes, of course, maybe I should clarify, of course it could be a fake out, but it should tell you in no uncertain terms that the New World Order is effectively dead. Whatever it was, it's no longer in power. They have vestiges, they have countries that they still control, sure. Europe in particular, if you're in the EU, oh boy, I'm so sorry for you. Unless you're maybe in Italy. Italy seems to be yanking its head out of its ass, thankfully. A few other countries may do so. But if you're in the EU, buckle up, baby, because it's going to get worse and worse for you. It's going to get worse here too, but we're going to come out of the tunnel soon. You guys are still going in the tunnel. So if you're in the EU, hang on, because it may get really crazy soon. So I believe the New World Order is already dead. That is to say, it is not going to happen. That doesn't mean they won't get everything that doesn't mean they won't get anything they wanted. Just means they won't get everything that they wanted. They'll probably consolidate in Europe. They may consolidate in Canada and Australia, a couple other places. And they'll try to keep their little plan going as long as they can and milk it as much as they can. But I'm pretty sure it's done. What does this have to do with aliens? Everything. Because if you know your lore, you know that these secret societies can be traced back to all of that. You know that you can trace these bloodlines back to Nephilim, Anunnaki, Atlantis, whatever the hell you want to call it. We don't know because we're all on the outside of that big club. There's even theories that say that we're already out there flying around with the aliens for the last 100 years already. There's even some people who believe that the bad guys from World War II left this planet in the 40s and 50s. That they built up a base in Antarctica. Look up Operation High Jump. And that they left and they're now flying around space. How much is true? How much is false? That's why I put the meme that's the cover of this particular stream. So you're telling me your whole history is fake? Yep. Because I'm here to tell you that even when they're telling you the truth, your history is fake. Most of your history is written by the winners of every conflict, and they always write that history to make themselves look like the good guys. And it's very rare that you get proof or truth or anything that is not fitting the establishment narrative. Even if that, and let me really, even if the establishment is good or ethical, the establishment narrative is the one that gets in the history books with the big bold letters. And the establishment, even a good guy establishment, is going to make itself look good. Because why wouldn't it? It's either going to make itself good because it's nefarious and they want you to believe they're good, or because they're so proud of what they did, they're only going to talk about the good parts. This is one of the things that, unbridled patriotism in the form of toxic optimism is bad. I consider myself a patriot. A lot of people would be like, Thorne, a left-hand path occultist, is a patriot? Yes, I'm actually patriotic. But in the sense that I feel like this is my home, not because I go, oh, I love what America does. This is where I live. I was born here, raised here. This is the culture I know the best. So I'm a patriot. I care about this country. One of the things that they've done to you as a civilization is they've gotten you to where you think it's uncool to love the place where you live. There's an old understanding that you have to have a sense of ownership in order to take the best care of things. Look at how people treat a lease versus the car that they own. When you lease a car, you don't take anywhere near as good care of it unless it's in the contract somehow that you have to. You don't take anywhere near as good care of it because you know it's going to get traded out. When you rent an apartment, you don't take anywhere near the same level of care that you do when you own a home. I know that very well because I've never lived in a home that I've owned. The closest I had was my grandparents' house, which they owned. And I can tell you, they took much better care of that house than we do of our rented homes by a lot. So one of the things that they've done with all of you guys over the last generations is they've gotten you guys all to feel like this isn't your home. You don't have a sense of ownership in your own country. You don't feel patriotic, so you don't give a shit what happens. You think it's uncool. How many of you guys, raise your hand in the chat, how many of you guys think it's uncool to care about your country? How many of you think it's uncool to think about politics, to think about society, to think about your civilization or your hometown? How many of you guys think that that's lame and boring? Why? Because they've made it out to be that way. The last generation or two, especially my generation, starting with Gen X. Usually I'm all about Gen X, how cool we are. That's just like a compensation trip, by the way. Gen X was when it really started. It happened in the 60s, yes, but it was the hippies were patriotic in spite of themselves. As much as they hated, the Vietnam War and the soldiers and all, as much as they were being taught to hate America with that kind of early stage communism stuff they were being taught, and all of that stuff was very subversive. But Gen X was when it really started to hit because they got us where it hurt. They didn't get us with slogans and stuff with activists. They got us with entertainment. They got us by showing us we can't trust our system. Once upon a time, you were like, FBI's cool, military's cool, government's cool. In the 80s is when it was all starting to be like, don't trust your government. They're hiding things from you. They're doing experiments on you. Look at like Firestarter, look at Close Encounters, look at all these things. Those are just the sci-fi examples. Look at War Games with Matthew Broderick, who was just on Only Murders in the Building the other day. Actually, it was quite a funny cameo. Look at Breakfast Club, you know. Look at all these things. They basically were teaching you that it's uncool to be part of society, that it's uncool to care about your country. Now, of course, I am definitely counterculture all the way. Do not get me wrong. But you can be both counterculture, independent, and still feel like this is my country and I care about it. Still have a patriotic streak. There's a meme. I got this one meme in my meme folder. I got a huge meme folder. They're not even memes anymore. They're like historical documents at this point. Because this day and age, in 50 years, 30 years, this is going to be an era that people are going to want, you know, they're going to want to know. If you don't have a meme folder filled with memes at this point about the current era, look, those things might be more valuable than NFTs at some point. Not really, because they spread like wildfire, but they'll be valuable to you. Trust me.
The rare Pepes.
The rare Pepes. Yeah, the rare Pepes. You've gotten it twisted. They've gotten you twisted up. Just like a lot of people are like, Thorne, stop talking about politics. Now people don't really argue that much anymore. They don't want to hear about the little dumb politics. People are interested in about the big picture stuff. But don't you see how all of this is unraveling and outpouring exactly as predicted? The Christians are convinced the revelation is happening and that they're going to be sucked up into heaven by God's vacuum cleaner. And that's a psyop too, to a degree. I'll explain that in a minute. Because I do believe this is it's either the time of revelation or it's close enough or they're making it look that way. One of those three. Too many things are lining up. But that doesn't mean that it's going to happen as the book of Revelation says. Doesn't mean it's literal. Prophecy is always symbolic. And those prophecies in particular are so fucking symbolic that if you know the symbols, you know that none of the things that it says are meant to be taken in literal form. But they're convinced that this is the end times, and lo and behold, a lot of them, because of that, they're just leaning back in their chairs and they're not getting involved because they figured they're going to get sucked up into heaven soon. They're just kind of like, God's coming back any day now. I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going to pray. I'm not going to go vote because what's the point? Some of them are even convinced already that Trump is the Antichrist. So all of this stuff, there's just, there's another meme that I love, which has Cypher from The Matrix, that famous picture, that famous scene where he's telling Neo, I don't even see number anymore. I see, cheeseburgers and stuff. And there's a meme that says, I don't even see the news anymore. I just see psyops. That's me. I feel like him. Thank you, Xander. Xander gave us a $4.99, but he didn't give me any kind of comment, so I'm just going to appreciate that. Thank you very much, Xander Promeo, excuse me. And I'll change subjects off of this political stuff in a moment. I don't want to focus on this all night, but I wanted you guys to look up, especially if you joined us late, please look up Mexican Alien Congress or Peruvian aliens. It'll probably pop up the very first thing. Very, very big story came up yesterday. So very interesting stuff. Don't worry about it being small, Xander. I appreciate it anyway. He says, not much, but it'll contain the coffee fund. I appreciate that. Christian says, DH Thorne, I'm worried I will meet an alien and I want to talk gnosis and non-duality and they will look at me confused, dumbfounded, disgusted. I don't think you will be. I don't think they will look at you that way at all. I've been told recently to start trusting my intuition pretty much with my whole heart. That doesn't mean to not have discernment and have a little bit of healthy skepticism, but to trust my intuition with my whole heart. And my intuition is clear. That non-duality is absolutely the fundamental underlying reality. To me, there is no doubt whatsoever. That doesn't mean that we have it figured out. Okay, let me be very clear. Understanding the non-dual nature of reality does not mean that you have the whole show figured out. Because for one thing, the whole show is bigger than you can possibly imagine. There is a ginormaganta banga wanga mamma jamma multiverse out there. And we are in just one tiny sliver paradigm of possibility. We are only in one teeny little timeline of that paradigm. And I've got news for you. You don't move through time, you don't move through space. Time and space are an illusion which move through consciousness. And that illusion is based on localization of consciousness within its own nature and essence, like pure information, like Plato's forms, but even more abstract than that. You're not moving anywhere. You're localizing the same way you would localize with your imagination in an idea. And so there's this giant mamma jamma multiverse from our perspective. From the higher perspective, that's not what it is. But from down here in the trenches where we live, in this low vibration, using it as a metaphor state, because it's not vibrating, it just looks that way. Down here in that low level vibration state, it looks like a multiverse to us. To higher beings, it looks different. And to the highest of all, it don't look like anything. But from our perspective, we would think of it as a hyperdimensional block time multiverse in which all time and space, all possibility exists static as a timeless object. Infinite. So literally anything and everything is out there in that multiverse. And you're only seeing the tiniest little potential. If you think you're insignificant being a human being on this little rock in this universe, now take that universe and make that universe smaller than the smallest Planck length object in an infinite universe. You can't even comprehend, because that multiverse is a mirror or an idea representing the divine itself. And the divine is without boundary, time. It has, it's so, you can't comprehend it. It's beyond big. It has no size. It's so ridiculously whatevered. So that's why the multiverse is, it's a mirror, it's a shadow, a reflection of, it's a distorted shadow, to be clear, a distorted reflection, but it is a reflection of that infinity, that divine singularity, that singularity that exists in null space. By the way, if you understand the terms I'm using, a null space singularity is a paradox. It's beyond paradox. It's so paradoxical. It's like a gibberish term. That's how paradoxical it is. So it's a null space singularity. God is a null space singularity, and that's what you are. And you're dreaming this multiverse based on your own infinitude, and you're only seeing the tiniest little sliver of it. So I guarantee you that if aliens land, I'm not saying all of them. I think there's some that are just as materialistic as the average idiot walking around on this planet. But the aliens, the ones that set us on our path, where do you think Hermeticism comes from? Hermeticism is absolutely a non-dual, although it's more of a qualified non-dualism, if you know what that is. It's a non-dual philosophy. It's just not explicitly non-dual like Advaita is. It's non-dual with qualified attributes. In other words, it's non-duality, but with some sort of, not attributes, but they will tell you that the good, the one, is unknowable. And from that good or one is a reflection of the good or one, which is Neoplatonism 101. That is the universe that we experience. That is the reality, and it has different levels. You have the etheric and the ideal, and then you get down to the material. But similarly, a more updated version of that would just be that there's a multiverse, which can be anything. You can have a universe that's a plane of light, a universe that's a plane of ghosts, where everybody goes when they die. Anything beyond your imagining. But Hermeticism goes back to Atlantis, basically. It goes back to pre-Sumeria and all of that. You can see it because you see the similarities of mythology. It's all there. They may have different deities and different relationships with the stars sometimes, but it's all there. The fundamental essence is built into every ancient religion. This is why if you're a serious occultist, you need to be a student of comparative mythology and religion. You need to be a student of comparative esotericism. You cannot just focus on one path to the exclusion of others. None of the greats did that. Look at Rudolf Steiner, look at Manly P. Hall, look at Blavatsky, and that doesn't mean that they were right about everything or that I like them all, although there's some I like better than others. But if you look at Aleister Crowley, look at them all. None of them were religious and dogmatic. They didn't just belong to one tradition and one only. They learned everything they could get their hands on, which is what I like to do. And the reason why that's important is because then you start to see that no one of these traditions has the answer. They've all got the answer because they're all like the blind man, the blind monks experiencing an elephant for the first time. If you don't know that parable, look it up, but I'll give you the short version is there is this village on the outskirts of, this country that doesn't get a lot of people. And there's these 5 blind guys that live in that village. And one day an elephant comes to town for whatever reason. And they've heard of elephants, but they've never seen one. They don't know what they look like. They've just heard the name and that they're big and cool. And so they want to see what it is. And they go to the heart of the town. And one by one, they all start, because they can't see it. So they start grabbing parts of the elephant. And the guy who grabs the trunk doesn't know it's a trunk, doesn't know what a trunk is. Says, oh, so an elephant's a kind of a snake. And the next one is holding the ear. And he says, no, an elephant's some kind of a leaf. And the other one is holding on to the leg. And he says, no, an elephant is a kind of tree. It's a tree trunk. And still another one is feeling along the flanks and the sides and says, no, it's like a wall. It's like a big leathery wall. It's some kind of a big wall. What is that? And then the one in the end is holding the tail and says, no, you fools, it's a lion, run. Because an elephant's tail is a lot like a lion's tail if you look. So the moral of that parable is each one of them has a true experience of the elephant, and each one of them by themselves knows a part of the elephant, but none of them know the elephant as it really is. And no world religion or esoteric tradition or mystic or guy like me has the whole elephant. All of us have pieces of it. And in the aggregate, when you put them together, it's sort of like triangulating the position of something. When you look at all of the religions of the world, and I mean specifically the mystical ones, not the bullshit. Sorry, Christians. I'm not even saying Christianity is wrong. I'm saying the way it's been prosecuted is wrong. Rosicrucianism uses Christianity very effectively, by the way. When you look at all these esoteric traditions, you're like triangulating something that you can't see with your eyes. So how do you triangulate an object? You get 2 or more, usually 3 different detectors. And you use trigonometry and math and geometry to figure out where the target object is based on how they're receiving their specific signal. So all of us, we're all thinking and experiencing the divine in our own way, and we're pointing at it. Not with our fingers, I'm just using it as a metaphor. We're pointing at it with our ideas and our words. And when you get a convergence of those ideas and words, you're onto something. This is before you even have a Gnostic realization of it. Before you have any kind of spiritual epiphany or transcendental gnosis. Once you have that, then your finger's like laser pointed. It's like a laser pointer right at it. Because now you've had it, you know it. And so you can describe it better. And when you encounter people who've had that, they all describe the same thing. Again, if you go on an expedition around the world to all the Aboriginal cultures that are still out there, either because they still live that way or they still have their stories and their recollection, every single one of them tells you some form of we are all one, we're all children of the divine. You have to understand that metaphor. We're children of God, we're children of the gods. That never meant separation. That didn't mean you were born and now you're separate. It was a childing. It was the ancient meaning of that. Everybody understood that father and son, mother and daughter, that children were connected. They were extensions. This is why having a male heir was so important, having a male child, because people believed that part of their being was in that person. They knew that. So the idea that you're the child of a god meant that in a way you were that god, and that god was a child of another god, and so on, all the way back to what? Primordial chaos, the beginning, the ultimate god, whatever the fuck. This is why many ancient pagan traditions made especially in Norse tradition, everyone's a child of the gods, right? Everyone's a son of Odin or a son of Thor or something. This is why it was so important to organized Christianity to make sure that any hint that you are a son of God was removed from the Christian scripture, so that only Jesus was the Son of God. But Jesus was trying to tell you all that you're all the children of God. And when we hear that today, again, if you're an angry, angsty, edgy, left-hand path practitioner, you go, those stupid Christians, we're not children of God. And I don't blame you, because the way that they say it, they mean it in separateness. When they say we're all children of God, they mean it with a level of a degree of separation. The original understanding had no separation. You go back 2,000, 3,000 years ago, people knew. They didn't know non-duality in the sophisticated way. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they knew it the way Advaita Vedanta teaches it. Well, they did like the year 600, but you know what I'm saying. They had an intuitive understanding that everything was one thing, that everything was like an ocean with waves on it, and those waves appear distinct, but they ultimately are all connected, interconnected at the very least. And I just had some dishes shift in the sink mysteriously. So I am very confident Christian, to the point where I will swallow my hat if aliens come down and they're not spiritual beings. I will be very shocked. I don't mean all of them, but I mean the ones I'm thinking of. If the ones I'm thinking of show up and I talk to them, I guarantee you that they'll pat me on the head like we might pat an Aboriginal person on the head. And no, we might have this sophisticated non-duality, and we'll recognize in their mythology and lore that they are non-dualists as well, but they have a different way, a less sophisticated way of understanding it. So they're going to pat me on my head, and I'm going to be like, we're all Brahman, we're all God. And they'll be like, he's right, but he doesn't know to what extent. He doesn't fully comprehend just what that means. He might know it because he's had gnosis, but he doesn't intellectually have it. So I am pretty confident, because every fucking single esoteric religion, spiritual practice goes back to Egypt, Sumer, and Atlantis, and Lemuria, and all of them every single time. From the sacred geometry to the myths and the characters and the zodiacal connections, all of that shit goes back so far that you can't say people made it up in the Middle Ages or even you're talking about dudes who were, according to mainstream science, these people were still banging rocks together to do everything. And yet they had this sophisticated understanding of geometry and the stars, going back to Göbekli Tepe, which was oriented using sacred geometry and theurgical, astrological. Come on. A bunch of hunter-gatherer cavemen built fucking Göbekli Tepe with their dicks. Give me a fucking break. I'm so tired of these lies. I am so tired of this system lying to me. And I hope you are too. I really hope you're mad about it too, because it needs to stop. And everybody that you're talking to in your life that doesn't see it, the Bible has a passage about the quick and the dead. Some people are quickened and some are dead. This is absolutely the case. You can call them NPCs if you want, but they are addled. They're broken. They are what the elites think of as, they're human beings, but they're animal human beings. You have to understand that to the hidden masters and the elites below them and so on, they see the average human being as a barely above animal creature, but below evolved, below human. And the kind of thing, the mistake we make as people on the outside is to think that they're racist, or that it's about, not to say that genetics don't play a role, it does, but that this is all about breeding or something. There is something to that, absolutely. But it's not like racism kind of shit. It's a spiritual evolution as well. They believe that some beings are just a little above animals in modern human bodies. They really believe that. That most of humanity is worthless and unworthy. You know this by scripture around the world, but especially Judeo-Christian scripture and Zoroaster and some of these others, but especially like Islam and Christianity in particular, those two. There's this story, it's mostly taken from Islam, about how the angels, or the jinn in the Islamic tradition in this case specifically, were offended that God chose humanity above them because we're so inferior. And you can kind of see how that, if you don't take it literally, but take it to mean that there are people that have elevated, or they're just spiritually more aware, instead of seeing themselves as guides for humanity, they feel that they're entitled to the fruit of human labor and existence because they see themselves as above. There's your pyramid, top of the pyramid. So those guys think they're better than you because they know that they're God. Why do you think every ancient culture had the god kings? Because they, whether they all knew it, because at some point it degrades and the kids don't follow the practices and they don't or they just go through, they just act like they're God because the priest class uses them for power. There's a very complicated thing, right? We all know that. But originally, the god kings, they weren't just saying that because it made them powerful. They believed it. And they believed it because of the various practices, the mysteries, the mystery schools that they would go through, taking the Kikion, taking the psychedelics, taking the blue lotus, taking the mushrooms, taking whatever it was, and having these transcendental experiences, probably more than that. One of the secrets of vibration that I'm learning, I haven't quite put it into effective practice, but I'm starting to, is understanding, like there's a type of meditative technique that I occasionally use. It's a little strenuous on my throat because I haven't practiced it enough in my life, and I don't quite get the reverb I used to when I was a smoker. But there's a way to intone where I couldn't do it right now because my mouth is dry from talking, but you vibrate in your nasal cavity and you can feel it like tickling your inner, like not far away from where your pineal gland would be. You feel a reverberation right up, just like right up in here, like find your ears, like right up a little bit above behind you can feel it all in there. It's like when you make that nyang, 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 nyang sound, well, make that sound, but make it really vibrate in your head. So it's like, you can feel that fucker vibrate. Now imagine you're sitting in one of these Egyptian gateway chambers where they have that false door. If you go in those and you do some acoustic sampling, those fuckers reverberate better than your bathroom. And people will go, even to this day, and try this out. They'll go and they'll sit and they'll hum. You learn what the proper harmonic is, and you hum that harmonic, and people have said it induces trances. Are you hearing me? Gateways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, size, shapes, and colors, and some that are not from this world. Imagine sitting there with just a little bit of maybe you're microdosing or you're taking some Blue Lotus and you've been taught this really good meditative hum. And you go in this chamber and maybe you're joined by a couple of people and you're all sitting there going, oh, and it's just reverberating and your brain is fucking oscillating in your skull and something clicks. And you have a transcendental trip that takes you to another fucking planet or something. Guys, I think it's very possible. When you also consider what substances these things were made out of, the quartz granite. Quartz is a living stone. I'm pretty convinced of that. I don't think quartz is just a rock. I think that it resonates with consciousness. I absolutely believe that. It resonates with electromagnetism. Electromagnetism has a huge corollary to consciousness. Remember, these things are all symbols. I don't mean literally physical electromagnetism because that's not real. That's just what we think it is. It's what we call it. But what it actually is something fundamental. It is not the fundamental. It is something above the fundamental, but it is close to it. So in our materialistic universe, this model we have, electromagnetism is the ether or something like it. There's something, a single field. It is not real in the way we think it is, but symbolically it represents the real. And that is what we say vibrates. It doesn't vibrate, it vibrates to us. From our perspective, it vibrates. The higher, it doesn't vibrate. In the higher realm, it does not. It's a static, it's just an image. It's just an idea. But to us, it looks like a vibrating thing. Quartz, when it vibrates, you get piezoelectric effects. You get electrostatic interactions. Quartz operates probably in a way that is resonant with consciousness. Whether it has its own sentience or not, if it does, it's an alien sentience. Maybe it's connected to a greater field of sentience or consciousness. But crystal, especially quartz, any kind of quartz, amethyst, rose quartz, all of it, they, I believe, are connected to consciousness. Everything is, right? But I mean, from our material reference, they are conscious entities. So I think that the ancients knew this. That's why so much of granite, other quartz, very quartz, heavy stone was used in a lot of these constructions. Because they had the ability to serve as an idol or as a dominion or like a way to channel back and forth. I love quartz. It's probably my favorite thing. I have one in particular that's just, I love it. I can't get enough of the thing. Thank you, Atropa, with the 777. The beautiful LVX Light Looks 777. Much love. Now, here's the wild thing. None of this stuff, I shouldn't say none. Everything I'm telling you guys is stuff that I've thought about and realized and then confirmed either completely or partially through various studies and people that I focus on. So nothing I'm saying to you is stuff that I'm parroting, which is probably why I'm so much more passionate, convincing, and able to talk about it than the average bonehead. The average person, the average YouTuber is parroting some shit that they got in a book. They haven't got a hands-on realization of it yet. Lapis is awesome, dude. We were just talking about my piece of lapis because if you look at the Sumerian Anunnaki statues, their eyes were this fucking color. By the way, Dune, the book Dune, I'm convinced that that motherfucker knew shit because as I'm reading Dune again with newer information and understanding, that motherfucker knew some shit. He wasn't just some cool philosophy guy. That motherfucker knew. Why do you think he had the fucking people from Arrakis with lapis-colored eyes? In the books, they're not the light blue that you see in the movies. They're a deep, dark blue within blue. Dune is not just a story. Dune contains esoteric knowledge, if you know how to decode it, that is mind-blowing. The folding of space, they're not really folding space, they're folding consciousness. How do you think the aliens get around? Do you think that they open up a warp drive is conscious drive? I guarantee it. How it works, I have no fucking clue. No fucking clue. But I guarantee, all right, I'm going to guarantee just for me. Could I be wrong? Of course. This is not gnosis that I know. This is belief. Let me be clear. This is belief. But this is belief that I'm confident of. That if these aliens come down and they take me into the ship and we talk, I know I'm going to be like, this is amazing. I have no idea what's going on. But they're going to try to explain it to me. And I'm probably going to get like 5% of it right. Which to me is like mind-blowing because I should get 0. I guarantee you I got 5% of this right. See, that just shows you my ego. Some would say you should only have 1% Thorne or else you're an arrogant bastard. No, I really do. I'm being very humble here. I think I got about 5% of it right. But that's more than the average person. I'm not saying that to compete. I'm just saying I think I got a pretty good idea of what they're doing. How much of this will we find out? I don't know. Is David Icke right? I don't know. Is the moon a space station put there to keep our souls reincarnating over and over? I don't think so. I think that David Icke gets a lot right, but I think he gets a lot wrong. The things he gets right, though, are very important. So I don't know. Maybe in a few years, I'll believe that he's completely right. Maybe he is. Maybe they have that cube on the dark side of the moon is what keeps us from leaving this planet, and it's a prison planet. That is what a lot of the people who look at the Aldebaran Nazi alien connection thing, that the bad guys from World War II were told that Earth is a prison planet for a fallen species that was genetically engineered, and we fucked up, or we got fucked up, or whatever. And so we're sort of like Australia, the planet. Not that they send their criminals here, but like we're not supposed to leave right yet until we get purified and figure it out. And some of us do, and we get away. Maybe that's what Maybe that's what the Hindus are saying. Maybe that's what the Buddhists are saying when they say liberation, you know. When you see suffering, you stop reincarnating because, well, the moon can't hold you anymore because you're no longer suffering, so you don't make good suffering juice for the alien reptiles. Maybe. Part of me just, nah. That's in my, I'll put that right teetering on the edge of the wastebasket on my maybe pile. That one I don't really buy right now, but that's because I haven't seen. Look, a year ago, if you told me we'd be having real aliens fucking shown on, I'd be like, nah, that'd be fake. So maybe in a year I will be completely, you know, I'll change my mind again. That's how you know I'm sincere, is because I'm willing to tell you when my mind changes. Well, George, it is holographic, but it's holographic. It's a mental hologram. There is no physical hologram out there. The world that you think exists does not exist. It never did. You have a psychic, a mental hologram that you're living in, that you're generating yourself. So, yes, in a sense, you're right. They can't hold you with the moon. Or can they? That doesn't mean they couldn't. It just means that it wouldn't be the moon. The moon is just our label for whatever that is. You see, that's what makes it so difficult. Even for me, who's transcended quite a ways out, I still see things as moons and planets when I should be realizing that they're symbols of something in the divine. Right? When you transcend far enough, you realize they're not really things, they're symbols of something. And that something doesn't look like a planet or a moon. It just looks like that to us. And, you know, so it's still hard even for me. And I've considered myself, you know, 98th percentile. And it's hard for me. It's going to be hard for everybody else. And I'm not saying that to brag. You can ask my wife and literally I'm either the 98th percentile of stupid or the 98th percentile of genius. Ask my wife. I go both extremes. So in this, I consider myself 98 percentile of this stuff. And that's without much education. I can only imagine if I found the right mentor that knows everything, you know, I probably would just never come home. Probably the truth, you know, I'd probably just orgasm about knowing the truth. It would just be 24/7 orgasm. Like psychic orgasm, like, oh my God, I know. Like, you ever see the end of Highlander when he kills the Kurgan, by the way, spoiler alert, and he gets the quickening and he's like, I am everything. I know everything. That would be me. That's probably going to be me if I ever do psychedelics. Tie me down, motherfuckers. I'm probably going to lose my shit. Would you find it funny if I told you that I've actually been using my star finder to make sure I know where Aldebaran is at all times? I actually faced Aldebaran the other day, and I tried reaching out with my mind in that direction, thinking, well, maybe they can hear me. And shows you how much I'm cracking up, right? And I had this little intuitive download. It's not the distance, it's the direction that's important. Because I'm thinking to myself, that's really far away. Do I have to yell in my mind? You know? and I got back this thought, it's not the distance. There is no distance, but there is direction. What? Don't think about the distance. Think about the direction. Get the direction right. The distance doesn't matter. Oh, well, you know why that's important? Do you know why that's important? Just the other day, I did a Facebook post where I said the moon that you see is not 200 some odd thousand miles away. There is absolutely no distance between you and the moon that you see. None. So it's the direction you're looking that matters when you want to see the moon, not how far away it is. So you get it? When I'm getting that intuitive little voice in my head saying it's not the distance, it's the direction, it's like it's reminding me there is no distance between you and Aldebaran. It's all in your head. Get the direction right, and you can go. Maybe someday it will happen. Look, I'm 47 years old. Presumably, there's a good chance I'll make it to 80. Maybe even more. What kind of guy will I be at 80? I mean, besides being old and weird. How much further am I going to go? Because I am not going to just sit here and rest on my fucking laurels with, I know everything, I'm done. That's a little scary, though. I have to check my ego, because when I think that way, I go, shit. All right. You know. So direction, Badash, I interpret not as physical direction, north, south, east, or west, although that is how we relate to it. Direction is... All right. When I speak of direction, I mean psychic direction, which is, if I say to you, think about your childhood, that's a psychic direction. And if I physically turn myself to face it, that is an affirmation that I am facing the direction in my mind. So I'm transcending the physical while using the physical as a symbol. That's what magic does. If you know anything about magic at all, you know that it's so symbolic that the first layer is literal, then you have symbolic, and eventually it gets so fucking abstract that you kind of lose sight of it, but it gives you an intuitive awareness of what it's talking about. Just like music doesn't have to spell out what it's trying to get you to know, but you can feel it anyway, even without being told it's a sad song, you know that it's a sad song. So the layers of symbolism, when you apply them to the physical, it's sort of like you're affirming them. So when I'm getting that little voice in my head that says, it's not the distance, it's the direction that's important when it comes to contacting the beings of Aldebaran, whether that was literally them telling me that's how you talk to us, or if it was just an intuitive hit to give me a little bit of gnosis about something else, doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Because I know psychically that advice was sound. Whether it was from, the tall white aliens or Pleiadians or whatever, I don't know, don't care. Frankly, I don't give a fuck, because I'm not about results that much. I don't lust for them the same way other people do. I want to know. I want to know. So the direction I'm facing is knowledge. I'm turning to face the knowledge, and I want to get it. And I'm starting to get to the point where it's like, I'm going to start exploring things I'm not good at now. I'm going to start really learning math. I've already started fucking with sacred geometry more than I ever did before. Because geometry is one of the few things I'm good at in math. Because for whatever reason, I have like dyslexia with math. Algebra, I suck. All that shit, I suck. But geometry, I've always been good at. Especially shapes and stuff like that. If you ever give me an IQ test, one of the things I do really well on is spatial awareness, shape recognition, shape prediction, shit like that. I usually get a good 2/3 of my IQ score out of that alone. General logic. Jockster asks, how have your experiences with possible alien phenomena informed your understanding of occultism in general? What insights have you gained that could be applicable to other areas of study? Now, I think it was my wife I was saying this to the other day, that one of the reasons that I run so cold on the whole alien question, there's two reasons for it. One, when I was younger, part of the things I would channel, people would give me hypnotic, sessions. And it wasn't always about demons and gods and shit like that. More than one or two occasions, my friends had regressed me to a memory of abduction. And I would tell them a story about abduction quite a few times. And there were some synchronicities that happened from it. One time I was watching this special about this guy talking about his alien abductions. And I didn't know the guy's name. And he's sitting there looking sad and all of this, you know, telling his story. And I'm like, I think his name was John. I said out loud, John, don't be sad. They didn't mean to harm you. And a second later, his name pops up, John. I'm like, how the fuck did I know that? So there's a lot of this stuff. So why do I not talk about it? Why? Because I believed for many years that that part of hypnosis didn't feel as real as the other things that I had done. And so I believed that it was sort of a hypnotic dream. If you guys don't know what that is, look it up. But the gist of it is, when you're under hypnosis, one of the reasons why hypnosis is sort of straddling science and pseudoscience is because it's well known that people under hypnosis will say things to please the person who's giving them questions. They will make stuff up, basically. And so I had misgivings about it. And I also wondered, just like Christian does, would aliens believe in gods and spirits or not? Because it feels like they wouldn't. Why? Because our entire society has materialized us. It's drilled into our heads this materialistic dogma that spirituality is bullshit, and the only thing that's real is cold hard math and cold hard science. And that's all that's real is material physicality. There's no spirits, there's no spirituality, there's no consciousness, none of this. It's all dead fucking rocks bumping together, a billiard fucking and it's outdated. Even the best scientists will tell you the billiard ball universe is so outdated it's not even funny. You might as well believe that the earth is flat if you think that the universe is a bunch of billiard balls bouncing together. And yet that's still what you're being taught in school, on television, in pop culture, but that's not what they think anymore. They haven't thought that in almost 100 years. Consciousness is central to physics now. If you don't know that, look it up. They can't get away from it. Consciousness is key. They just haven't come around. They haven't quite come around yet to say consciousness is more fundamental than space-time or math. Do you hear me, all you guys talking about math in the chat there? Math is important, but it ain't fundamental. Trust me. Math, what math is a division of the infinite one. So when we're talking about mathematics, what most of you guys think of as mathematics is what is unique to the paradigm of this multiversal continuum. So what do I mean by that? In this particular universal paradigm, 2 plus 2 equaling 4 is normal. You go to another one, 2 plus 2 doesn't have to equal 4. However, math is, if you look up the way the ancients thought of math, was that there was primordial chaos, then the mind of God steps in, and this is why I have that famous picture with the fingers with the yod, you know, that, and it's a certain degree of arc. And if you know what that degree of arc is, you know why you have the hexagram, you know why you have astrology, you know a lot of shit. So they realized, because they would take a circle, and they would take the radius of a circle, and they would take that radius and then they would apply it to the circle, and they'd walk that radius around and they would get 6. And that 6 would become a hexagram, and then a hexagon, and a hexa this, and then in that hexagram was equilateral triangles and all, and every shape eventually emerges from this one operation. Everything emerges from it. It's an emergent mathematical procedure, which you can basically make a universe, at least in terms of shape. But shape is just, you know, a consciousness construct. What we're really talking about is relationships. Mathematics isn't about numbers. Numbers are a notation for relationship. Relationship is what? It's distinction. Between what? There's nothing to distinguish if it's non-dual, right? Except there is the one. The infinite singularity, the one, the monad. That singularity, if you divide it, you now have 2. If you divide that, you've got so on and so forth. Look at your Fibonacci sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on. Now let's look at Neoplatonism, Hermeticism, etc. What do they always tell you? There is the one, Then there its exact copy, in other words, its mental image of itself, is the other one. That creates a duality, 2. And then you insert yourself into that duality, you get 3. You know, here's 2, and you go, well, there's one over here, one over here. Oh, but there's me that notices the 2. There you get your 3. Then you get your, and it just builds from there, like a fractal. So the dividing of the 1 is what causes all of this. But it's a mental division. It's not a real division. You can't divide the 1. Math only works when there's more than one thing. So in order for math to be real, fundamentally real, you essentially have to divide the 1. But you can't. It's a mental division. It's not an actual division. So math is also an illusion. Math is part of the manifest simulacrum. But the principle of math is fundamental. What does that mean, the principle of math? The principle of math is that intuitive recognition in the relationships. It requires a divine intelligence to recognize. If you are not a living divinity, you could not recognize that interesting correspondence. Liquid parallax, in a lot of ways, you're talking about mathematical operations of notation. One of the biggest issues that I have with math nerds isn't that they're wrong about their math. They're usually 100% right. It's the philosophy that underlies it. A mathematician can only go so far with math. So this is why you have sacred geometry and Euclidean geometry. A sacred mathematician doesn't confuse the numbers for God. The numbers are a sign of the mind of God. Yes, some will confuse, I know they will, some will confuse, but the Euclidean mathematician gets wrapped up in the world of symbols. They don't transcend the math. The ancients, like the Pythagoreans and all these people, you would meditate on a geometric figure. You would just sit there and stare at the fucker and notice things. And you didn't even have to do any thinking. Are you hearing me? You didn't even have to do any thinking about it. You could literally just look at it, and something about being in the presence of the polygon would influence consciousness. That's not debatable. I've started using them myself. I will occasionally meditate with I only have little ones. I got to get some bigger ones made up. Make them out of wood or something. I have this little set of sacred platonic solids. My favorite one. And you just sit and you meditate on it. You don't worry about the math, the numbers, you just meditate on it. But you should know that over the door of Plato's Academy, it says, none shall enter who do not have knowledge of geometry or something like that. I forget the exact slogan, but you can look it up. So absolutely, these things are important. Liquid, I agree with you. And I'm not making fun of you when I say math nerd. I mean, there are a group of people in this world this is a complicated thing. I wish I didn't have to talk, because this could take me on a tangent for a while. I'll try to keep it brief. The powers that be want you dumbed down to the higher knowledge. So what they do, one of the tactics that they've done, there's 2 ways they've gotten. Yes, exactly like the Antras, Devin, exactly. One of the things that they've done, it's exactly like the Antras. They're just a 2-dimensional. I'm on that tangent now. The Antras are exactly like the platonic solids. Exactly. The powers that be want humanity on a dumbed down wavelength. So this is what they want. They either want you to be a hard, rational, materialistic, bumping particles moron who doesn't believe in anything spiritual, Consciousness is an emergent property of bumping particles because they want to keep you at that animalistic level of spiritual intelligence. What they want is a human being that has a very good, purpose-built AI intellect that can do jobs and follow orders. They don't want a human that knows their divine nature and how important that is. So what they do is they get everybody indoctrinated into this materialistic world. And then they just let that infect everything else, even spirituality. And how do I know this? Because when I talk to the average New Age occult guy or girl, I'm not trying to be sexist, it's just how I say things. When I talk to the average New Age occult person, every single one of them thinks about magic as if it's like electricity or something. Very few of them see it as the ancients saw it, as something psychological, something psychic. That doesn't mean there wasn't energy in their work. Obviously there was. But they didn't see these things as if you're charging up a Kamehameha blast to blast your crystal with, and that powers the crystal up, and then you aim that energy at things. That's fine as a psychic metaphor. I don't discourage you from doing it that way. But the problem is you've got to realize that that's just a psychic metaphor. It's not meant to be literal. You're basically putting a shape, a mental form on something that is ultimately formless, and that's becoming your interface for it. But if you don't realize that's what you're doing on some level, if you think it's literally like you're shooting energy balls at things, you're actually, even if it works, it may work perfectly for you. The problem is you're still stuck down in a lower vibration of consciousness because you don't realize that you're just taking materiality and imposing it on the spirit world, because the spirit world is not anything like the material world. You don't need to Kamehameha blast anything. You will it into existence and out of existence, and it does, just like a dream. Except that dream can trickle down into this one and make this one. Think of it like, you know, the movie Inception? The movie Inception, people don't also realize that as a metaphor, that's also like dimensionality and consciousness. In the movie Inception, you have these people trying to get someone to do something by implanting it deep in their subconscious. Well, the material world is like a deep subconscious state of the divine. It's not, but it's in a similar sense, it's like that, except it goes in reverse. Okay? So where we are, the material world, is actually the furthest from reality. This is like the deepest dream you can have. And the higher reality is what implants ideas into this one and makes them real. So if you go into that higher reality and you manifest something in your mind, it is more likely to manifest here, so long as you don't think of it as if it's literally pushing energy around and building things there. It's more psychic. It's a psychic connection. Really, it's more like you're going there, and that becomes your new reality. But that's another conversation another time. So the powers that be, they want you in this materialistic state of mind. And Euclidean mathematics, yes, Jockster, meditate with D&D dice, 100%. Euclidean mathematics is generally bereft of any spiritual reference. And so they don't mind you playing with Euclidean mathematics. But then you've got this other group of people that are not falling for materialism the same way, at least not consciously. You've got your New Agers. Now, your New Agers, they have a spiritual bone in their body, so to speak. They're a spiritual being. So for them, materialism, they're not buying it, not fully. So how do you get them? Well, number one, materialism is still the indoctrinated dogma of the world. So even if they don't consciously hold on to it, it is still their default subconscious frame of mind. I say this because even for me, it is true. until recently, it's been very hard for me to break from that materialistic mindset. And even when I'm not in it, I still catch myself having a materialistic response to things. And I'm trying to get over that. Thank you, Gar. That's a healthy donation, my friend. Thank you very much. Gar is an awesome artist, by the way. Gar, put your links in the chat, please. I will pin them for that beautiful 20 spot. Gar is a magnificent artist who does very good symbolic artwork. You know, I mean, it may not be to everybody's taste, but I think it's very good because he puts a lot of interesting symbolism in it. And I've always enjoyed his products. So, Gar, if you've got a website or something, please post it and I'll pin it. Speaking of psychic symbolism, Gar's a good example. So for those new age types that are still in a spiritual mindset, they've still got a materialistic, they've still been indoctrinated into materialistic society enough that already causes them problems. Then you've got another layer, which is the superstitious bullshit that they're fed. They're taught, you can make a Merkabah and fly around. I'm not saying Merkabahs aren't real or not, but when you look at it, they're being fed this Pollyanna, toxic positive kind of shit, that, again, it may be 80% truth, but it's got 20% bullshit in it. And that 20% bullshit is very mechanistic, magic like a vending machine. Spirituality is a way to get shit. You're all star seeds. You're all evolving into God. It's all just this bullshit. And it's totally out of touch with genuine spirituality. I get nauseous in the typical new age environment. Even the ones I hang out with, I get nauseous. Spiritually, mentally, physically nauseous. I walk in these places, I see it's just, I call it yoga pants, pumpkin spice armpits. It's typical, just, ugh. There's nothing genuine about it. It's very pastel, right? It's very pastel. It's not even like old school Wiccan where it's got like witchy shit going on. It's all just like pastels now. Go into your typical new age store and it's just love and light bullshit. Here's a rose quartz. It's the most powerful crystal, everyone, because it represents the heart chakra. And we all need to... No. You don't need it. You just need this amethyst in your pocket and your life will be better. Here's some water that's been energized by... I use some vagina drippings, so it's holy sacred female water. Okay. No offense to the divine feminine, by the way. Because I know I'm sort of aiming this at like a feminine thing. It's just, there's not a lot of masculine in it. I don't know if you've ever noticed. The modern new age movement is very, very feminine. Again, there's nothing wrong with femininity, but it's very imbalanced. It's very imbalanced towards the feminine to the point where it's toxic. It's fucking toxic. Yeah, spirituality for Care Bears, not gonna lie. Exactly. Yes, that is a great way to put it, Snake. I would agree completely that modern new age stuff is basically spiritual new Care Bears. It's basically all it is. He says, you sound scarily like a crush to my first tarot teacher and Glinda from The Wizard of Oz. Oh my God. Yes. Yes, indeed. And again, I'm not, all right, I am judging, but I'm not judging in the way most people judge. I'm judging the thing. I'm not judging the person because anybody like that, I don't look at them and go, you suck because of that. That's just, I go, oh my goodness. That's so cringe. It is so fucking cringe. Like Eddie said, when we were talking or we were doing like sometimes we chat in the Discord openly, and he said something like, if you don't find yourself strung out on like, 12 cartons of cigarettes and miserable, whatever, what are you even fucking doing? Like, if that's what it is, if you don't find yourself curled up into an ass ball on the floor crying for forgiveness or something at some point in your spiritual career, what the fuck are you even doing? Like, real spirituality ain't that love and light bullshit. Love and light comes after. You don't get to, so my problem is not with love and light. I want to be very clear. I don't have a problem with the love and light. It's that you don't get there from the beginning. Love and light, you end up there. Because if you try to be that before you've gone through the process, your version of love and light is bullshit. It's just superficial platitudes you're doing to fit into a culture that's fanatical and stupid. Genuine compassion of the sort which I prescribe and try to show. It's not even something I try to do anymore. It's a genuine, sincere, I look at, and if I don't feel it sincerely, I don't do it. I don't fake sincere compassion. If I don't feel the compassion, by I say feel, I don't mean emotional feeling. I mean, if I don't feel it gnostically. If I don't have a gnostic feeling of compassion for something, I don't act on it. I don't do the love and light bullshit routine. I don't feel guilt about not doing it. I don't look at people and say, I've got to save you. I've got to be nice to you. Sometimes the nicest thing you can fucking do, 5 across the fucking eyes. I'm dead serious. You can't just love and light your way into change. Sometimes you got to shotgun surgery in that shit. I like that, Gar. It's like the 12-step program. No one's gotten on the path by eating milk and cookies. I submit to you that at least as an adult, maybe as a child, let me be clear, maybe as a child, you can genuinely do love and light from the beginning. Because if you notice, a lot of children, love is not a hard thing. They genuinely love and they have genuine compassion. They don't fake compassion very well. Kids don't fake things very well. As a parent, I can tell you up to a certain age, kids don't fake things well at all. So when a child is doing love and light, it's a sincere operation. And if you can get a child to be love and light and help educate them from that at the beginning, which knowing what I know, I don't think I could do it, but some people could. You could get a child to develop with genuine love and light. I do believe that. I'm not saying nobody on this earth can be love and light from day one. What I'm saying is the average new age person, it's a superficial act. And it's cringe as fuck, because you can tell. You know for damn sure that they don't like you, that they don't love you, that they don't have compassion for anybody. They do what they do out in the open because it makes them feel special and important. Not all of them, but many of them. So I don't believe that as an adult, you go from being a typical person to having love and light compassion directly. You've got to go through that gauntlet. You've got to do the shadow work. You've got to do your spiritual work. You've got to face your demons, and you've got to learn to see in others the divine. And until you've seen it in yourself, you can't see it in others. You know that old saying, unless you love yourself, you can't really love someone else, right? The problem is most people confuse love with passion. Love is not passion. Passion's a reflection of love, but it's not love. Passion's a distorted shadow of love. It's not love. Yeah, there's a lot of narcissists. So my wife and I were talking about that, Jockster, the other day. And I said that, I was looking something up because I'm starting to look more into the Pleiadian stuff. And as soon as you start looking into Pleiadian aliens and shit, Google is just filled with star seeds. Everybody's a fucking star seed. Go onto Reddit and look it up. Every single person's a fucking star seed now. And we're talking about people who can't even get out of bed. They're all fucking star seeds. They're here on a mission to save the world, and they're ridiculous. And almost every one of them is a narcissist. Just like a lot of these woke people, nothing wrong with LGB or anything like that, but a lot of these people, they're narcissists. This is a way for them to highlight themselves and show how special they are. Look at me, I'm a fucking LGB starseed from the planet Blue Balaf Live, and it's just, oh, shut the fuck up. I'm not saying none of them are. I don't know whether they are or not. But I can tell you that the vast majority, 99% of them, are just narcissistic bullshit artists looking for a little moment of fame. Gar's on a roll tonight. Hey, being a starseed and $5 will buy you a Vente Dark at Starbucks. Love it. Love it. That's right, Atropa. You got to face them or they consume you, and you can't love others when you're being consumed by that shadow. So, you know, yeah, or the twin flame shit. You know, my jury's out on some of those things. I'm not saying that twin flames have no... So there is some ancient... So the idea is that before you incarnate, there is another soul that you're going to meet in this life who is important to your journey. They bring with them something you need. And when you meet up with them in your life and you engage with them, maybe they become your best friend, maybe they become your lover, maybe they become your dog. But that entity in your life will fill in a missing hole that is important to your spiritual reawakening. I think that's possible. But the way it's used in the new, like the way you're saying it, Atropa, I agree. I think what you're describing, because I've had that question, no, I don't believe in that. No, not like that. No. Because that's really just, in my opinion, a lot of those people, they're just love, they're just love lost. They're just, they're lonely hearts, and they want to believe that they've got somebody that they're meant to be with, because it gives them a sense of hope, and belonging on some level. Like, how many of these people say that their fucking cat is their familiar? How many of these people are like, oh, my cat is my familiar? No, it's not your familiar. It's a cat. Familiar is a spirit. And familiars can possess pets, yes, and they can take a fancy to one of your pets. I think that my wife might not know this because I haven't said this to her. Sometimes I feel weird because there's things I think about, but I don't tell her, and I feel like I should have. But there's times I feel like my new bird might be being influenced by my familiar, because their personalities are very, very similar in a lot of ways. And if you may recall, my familiar is anchored to a bird skull. Supposed to be a crow skull. It's stainless steel. And I've been feeding this fucker for 3 years. And I don't use him for much lately, so he's probably got a lot of extra energy. Yeah, whatever happened to Joker Biden, Jose? That's a good question. Haven't seen him in a while. Whoever's got that account, bring him back. I miss him. So it's very possible that my familiar is in some kind of relationship or connection to my pet bird. It's very possible. The attachment that bird has to me is almost psychotic. And she likes my blood. She bites me every now and then and gets blood. She could literally be somehow, possessed on occasion by my familiar. It wouldn't be outside the realm of my belief. It's just that the average person who says that their cat is their familiar, most people don't have an appreciation for what familiars are in history and in the literature and in the traditions. They think of it as a cutesy little thing that they saw on, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and so they want a cat familiar. It's just a narcissistic thing. Not all the time, sometimes just some poser bullshit, but it's usually very cringe. I don't like to acknowledge, though, that my bird is a familiar, because I don't like the idea of putting that kind of pressure on a living creature. I prefer to see my familiar as a separate entity that may sometimes influence the bird, because this way the bird has its own dignity in life. You know what I mean? Well, Order the Black Dragon, can Shiva be your familiar? It depends on which definition of familiar you like to use. Most would tell you no, because Shiva's a god, and gods can't be familiars. But there are some who would say that that's no excuse, that a familiar spirit can be anything, can be a god, can be a demon, can be a ghost. And still others would say, well, gods, demons, and ghosts aren't real. They're just thought forms, so anything can be your familiar. So I'll let you think that over for yourself. Ultimately, Shiva is just one of the many faces of the divine. You know, it's like Ishvara. It's just another face of the divine. Thank you, Atropa. Yeah, I think it's wrong to put that on a living. You know, I did think about writing a ritual whereby I would give the animal the choice. If the animal was willing and wanted to be a vessel for a spirit, that I would figure out a way, like, you know, let it choose. And if it does the thing, then I know it's chosen it. But I never felt comfortable with it. Something about it just didn't feel right. So I never went through with it. I never finished writing it. I never did it. But if you're going to involve your animals in familiar work and you want a familiar to use your animal companion as a vessel, then I ethically believe that you should give it the option. In other words, give the animal an option to choose. Don't force it on the animal. Just like you wouldn't force it on a person. And then again, if you're a really hardcore left-hand path and you think morality's dumb and you like the taboo angle, then go ahead and do it. Sure. Maiden Liberty, define possession. Because in some ways, you can never be possessed by anything. You, consciousness, the divine, can never be possessed by anything. Consciousness is never possessed. Consciousness possesses. And I wouldn't even say it possesses. Consciousness witnesses. So you can't be possessed by a daemon. But can your body? Yes. Absolutely. Most of the time, your personal daemon, your friendly, you know, tutelary spirit, is not going to possess you. It doesn't need to. It just, you're already open to it, and it's already guiding you. And it feeds your intuition, it feeds your circumstance, and you are taught by it deeper knowledge. But you can invoke any spirit, and if you invoke a spirit, you can channel a spirit, and if you channel a spirit, you can be possessed by a spirit, in theory. But what does possession even mean? Well, what does that fucking mean? When I was younger, my body was possessed many times. Many times. Sometimes I was still aware of things. Like, look up the movie Split. Demonic possession and multiple personalities are like this. There are times you can't tell the difference. So spirit possession, I don't even like to call it demonic possession, but that's just the way most people talk about it. Spirit possession and multiple personalities are honestly, you could even say they're the same thing. Because you could argue that the multiple personalities are different spirits that are also different altars of God that are just using your body just like you do. Just like you, the person you think you are does. In theory, anybody can run this body. Any personality can run this body. Personality is just a bunch of algorithms, if you think about it. You know, your personality, the person you think you are, is just a set of behavior patterns. Think about it. Who's D.H. Thorne except he's got this accent, he's got this style to him, he's got this attitude. Those are all algorithmic procedures. Those are all things that you do instinctively as part of your persona. They're all an act, though. If you're a non-dualist and you've transcended far enough, you know damn well your personality is a mask that you're wearing that's your choice to wear. You don't have to be this person at all. You can be anyone you want. I could completely change my mannerism and demeanor anytime I wish. It's not a matter of acting, it's just a matter of decision. Now, it can be difficult. Sometimes you have to fight it. Sometimes you really got to pretend. Sometimes you can't do it on purpose. Sometimes it's got to happen naturally. Is that possession? Is an actor possessed when they play Hamlet really well? Are they possessed by Hamlet? Could you tell the difference? So, invocation, channeling, possession. And Atropa brings up that she had good experiences, and so have I. Possession can be good or bad. Complete possession, only Christians think of possession as bad. Because in their mythos, you're only possessed by evil spirits. You can't be possessed by anything good. But that's bullshit. You can absolutely be possessed by good things. Order the Black Dragon, don't take the mythology of Shiva so literally. That is way too literal, dude. The metaphor of Shiva opening his third eye and destroying the universe with fire. Fire is a cleansing element. What does it do? It destroys the illusion of materiality. You're not going to destroy shit. Nothing's going to get destroyed, dude. There's nothing to destroy in the first place. That's the ultimate destruction, is to realize there's nothing to destroy. I just gave you the whole show. So put that down. You're off in the weeds, dude. No offense. I'm saying that with love, brother, because you're here every week. But trust me, you're in the weeds with that, man. Walk it back, baby. Come on back. Come on back to the light. You're off in the weeds, dude. Don't take it so literal. You should not and you cannot take it literally. The symbolism of Shiva opening his third eye and burning the universe with fire, the purifying energy of fire washes away all illusion. What do you think God coming back and destroying the earth in fire really means? This is why Christians give me such a pain in my ass. Because when they read Revelation, they take it literally like most modern Protestants do. And they think that the book of Revelation means that Jesus is going to come back and we're going to have a nuclear hellstorm and that's how the world is cleansed and we're all going to be raised in the new heaven and new earth, and it's all literal to them. They don't see the symbolism there that's right in their face because they were never taught. I wasn't taught. I had to learn. So when they say God's going to come back, Jesus is going to come back and use fire to cleanse the world, it's exactly the same thing as Shiva opening his third eye. It's no secret that Luciferian Promethean archetype is in Christ and Shiva equally. Christ comes from heaven and steals fire for the gods and gives it to mankind in the form of redemption. That's the ultimate fire. What is the fire Prometheus brings from Mount Olympus? Is it literal fire that makes burny things and can cook your food? No, fucko. The fire that came from Mount Olympus was the fire that purifies the mind and reveals to you the delusion of materiality. That's the fire that Prometheus brought to you. That's the fire that Jesus brings, that Lucifer brings, that Shiva brings. It's not Kamehameha blast, boom, I destroyed the earth. It's whoosh, the delusion's gone. It's all there in front of your faces. You just have to know how to look. And I only know 5 or 10%. This is what 5 or 10% will get you. Imagine what 100% will get you. I may be arrogant. I'm arrogant on 5 or 10%. Imagine the asshole I'd be at like 50%. Imagine if I knew as much as Manly P. Hall. I'd either be like super, super humble because I learned everything, or I would be a completely insufferable, arrogant jacktard, man. You wouldn't like me at all. Maybe you would. Maybe I would calm down. Some of this is an act. I got to be honest with you. Some of this is an act. I'm having fun. Right now I'm having fun, and part of my way of having fun is to act like an arrogant dick. But if you ever get to know me personally, I'm an arrogant dick, but I'm a nice one. Yeah. Jockster, I forgive you for being Christian. No, I'm kidding. There's nothing wrong with Christianity. My problem is with the organization, the religion, the orthodoxy. Christianity as think of Christianity like the Vedas. If you take the Vedas literally, you fucked up. If you take Christianity at face value, you fucked up. Christianity is meant to be interpreted through symbolism and metaphor. It's not that there isn't historical evidence for some of it. There absolutely is. Some of it is literally truth, like literal truth. And then the Moabites went to Jibaham or whatever. Yeah, some of that shit's completely true, historically speaking. There's no question. Some of it is not metaphor, some of it's literal. The hard thing is to understand what's what. You also have to understand what was corrupted by organized religion into a system of control. The modern Orthodox organized religion of Christianity, be it Protestantism, Catholicism, or even Eastern Orthodox, those are all corruptions for the most part. They're all manipulated. Probably the most damning line in the entire Bible, I don't remember word for word, but it's the line where it says, Jesus said, none shall come to the Father save through me. Christianity took that line. They either took it and corrupted it and changed its wording around so it sounded like what they have today, or they just wholesale just injected that in, because that doesn't sound like Jesus at all. Jesus was never about himself. Nowhere in the goddamn Bible does Jesus say anything like he's some kind of special anything. Except when he does. And when he does, it seems completely against what he normally does. He is normally very selfless, very humble. He's not all about, look at me, I'm the Son of God. He's always just basically sounds like a fucking Buddhist. This whole idea that Jesus is saying, you must come to me and be forgiven by me to go to heaven. Oh my God. That is the most obvious bit of, and the thing that's fucked up, the thing that really is fucked up is that they have indoctrinated those poor souls so much with that mythology that if you say that to them, that's the devil saying that. The devil doesn't want you saved, so the devil's telling you that Jesus wouldn't say that, but he absolutely did. Oh my God. Fundamentalism, be it New Age, woke, Christian, Islam, fundamentalism is garbage. Fundamentalism is utter garbage because it's ruined whatever beauty there is in Christianity. It's taken me years to even come to the point where I can go back and appreciate the Bible anymore because I've been so turned off by the corruption in it. Now I've had some moments where I look back and I read the parts of the Bible or the Bible story and it's more story format, and I feel like all right, I think I get this better now. It's not so offensive to me. There is a part of me that's wary of it though, because there's a lot of ancient conspiracy going on. One of the reasons why I made this video's title about your history is a lie, and we could talk every week about that. Is that if you think that the spirituality that you're given isn't a lie, just like history is, you're lost. Being a spiritual person ultimately means going out on your own because it's all lies. Ancient history is just like modern history. They lie about everything. They fix elections, they lie and cheat and steal, and that goes double for religion. Triple for religion, honestly. Jay, I hope you're not too offended. I will say any Christian that wanders into a live stream of mine and gets offended by what I say. Oh, now I know you're lying, Jay. Any Christian who wanders into my live stream and gets offended, it's their own damn fault. I love you guys. Jay and Christian, you guys are awesome, man. Good jokes, dude. Good. Fucking hilarious. But for real, anybody who wanders in here as a Christian gets offended, like, that's on them. Because it's like, it's your fault for not knowing your own religion right. Lucifer is the father of lies? You mean Christ? The light bringer, the morning star? Yeah. Certainly that Caesar's Messiah is a bit of a lie, isn't he? So my contention is simply that mainstream Christianity, as it is known and practiced by the average Christian, especially the fundamentalist, is 100% the Roman fake forgery Christianity that they tried to use to save the empire. And it worked for a little while. I think it's Caesar's Messiah. I think it's total bullshit. Look up the book and movie Caesar's Messiah. That shit'll blow your brain. If even 10% of it's true, it's enough to damn the whole damn religion. You know what I mean? If even 10% of that movie is true, the whole religion is on notice because it's, and I think way more than 10% of it's accurate. That doesn't mean it's a bad spiritual path. It's just been so corrupted. What has to happen, and it has happened in the past, there are non-dual Christians. There are mystical Christians. There's Hermetic Christians. There's all kinds of Christians out there that see Christianity like the way a Hindu sees the Vedas, like the way Advaita Vedanta treats the Vedas. It is a source which has to be interpreted. And when it's interpreted properly, it makes total sense. When you misinterpret it, it becomes a theistic, dogmatic religion. That's right, F. Kitty. If you look it up, the Caesar in particular was one of the youngest. Watch Caesar's Messiah. I don't have it in my brain right now, so I can't remember the specifics. But one of the Caesars, basically their son, was modeled as Jesus and all of that. And if you look it up, it's pretty wild. It's a free movie somewhere. It's only like an hour and a half. It's a great movie. That's not to say it's all accurate. Like I said, maybe only half of it's accurate. Maybe you can have, because I know the Christians have already attacked it and said, this isn't true, that's not true, and blah, blah, blah. And maybe to some degree it's not. But you have to recognize that in this world of spirituality, there's just as much politics as there is in politics. That's why religion and politics are things you don't talk about to people unless they have a really open mind or on the same wavelength, because it's so fucking deranged and corrupted. It is so propagandistic and fundamentalist that people, that's why religion sucks. That's why I'm into spirituality, not religion. And esotericism. Very few esotericists are dogmatic like that. That's not to say none, but very few. Ironically, and this is what kind of pisses me off, is left-hand path spirituality tends to be more dogmatic than a lot of others, especially Satanism. It's one of the reasons why I've never called myself a Satanist, because I can smell that shit a mile away. For them, it's still rooted in the Christian story. And Jesus is bad. Satan is good. He's our pal. Or they're atheists. And there's a level of dogma there that is really difficult to get around. Inexpert Zennial says a lot of women are asking how much their dudes think about the Roman Empire. That says a lot about TikTok. Yeah, I get it. I don't really think about the Roman Empire. I don't know. Does that mean I'm a cuck or something if I don't think about the Roman Empire? In fact, it's funny because when Eddie saw that new logo that I've been using lately, kind of testing the waters with, I had a black and white version he didn't like as much. When I showed him that red and yellow one, he's like, ooh, that sounds like, that's Roman Empire energy right there. I'm all about that one. I'm like, okay. Oh, Christian. Oh my cringy guy. Oh, that's some waifu level shit right there, Christian. He says, does an atheist katana greet its scabbard by tipping its fedora? Messiah. F Kitty. Yeah, true. Well, as a woman, I didn't like the idea that my husband or father could sell me for gambling debts. That's another thing, is that one of the things that modern people do that's kind of stupid is we kind of apply modern ethics to the past, and that's called presentism. You go back 1,000 years, 10,000 years, the world that they lived in was so different. Ethics and morality evolve because they're a form of technology. If you don't realize that, really think long and hard about it, because there's no objective morality. I'm not a moral relativist in the way other people make it sound. I'm not I think that, you know, while you're incarnate in this life, there's just things that one does and things that one doesn't do. And the reason that we do them are for pragmatic good reason. We don't go around murdering people because it's not because it's necessarily objectively wrong in the universal sense. It's objectively wrong in the societal and personal sense. It's just, it doesn't benefit you to be that way in this world. Now, 10,000 years ago, hey, there's no system of laws, and if you don't like somebody and they're hurting you in some way, yeah, maybe it's in your best interest because, you know, that person who is taking your crops or something or hunting on your land is ultimately taking food out of your mouth. They're basically stealing from you, so maybe it's a good idea to kill them. It's a different world, you know, and in a world where women, for example, in a civilization where women, for whatever reason, are locked into certain roles in society, whether you agree with that or not, then that means that women have to be treated differently and so on. It's just a bunch of technology and it's not always the best. But if we look back in the past and be like, oh, people were all, I don't know, patriarchal and bigoted or something, that's not necessarily the reality. The reality is think of it like this. Today, we do a lot of things in society that 100 years from now, people are going to think we're crazy. Take a look at 2020 with all the masking and all everything. In 20 years, people are going to look back on that much the same way that we look back on people 100 years ago who used fucking literal radiation to scan their feet to see if they could fit their shoes and they all died 6 months later. Like, we're going to be looking back on the shit we do today with the same kind of flat earth dumb-dumbery, right? So I don't lose a lot of sleep over it. I just follow compassion. Compassion is my guide, and if I go by compassion, I kind of can't do wrong. Future people may judge me different, but I know in the moment I'm doing the right thing. Stu Henry says, Satanists didn't hurt, torture, and murder men, women, and kids for practicing ancient magical arts. Yeah, but they would very happily hunt, torture, murder, and kill people for being other things these days. I am very, very surrounded by a lot of Satanists, and in the past, I've gotten a lot of death threats from them because I didn't toe the dogmatic party line. This one dude, upon finding out that I voted for Trump, lost his shit because he said Christians vote for Trump and I can't be a real Satanist if I vote for Trump. And he started sending me death threats and literally talked about raping my wife. So don't tell me don't put Satanists on this pedestal as if they don't do evil. They fucking do. There's a lot of dipshits that are Satanists. But like anything, the satanic, like the LaVeyan Satanism, for example, that's basically just, if you read Ragnar Redbeard, Might Makes Right, he basically took Might Makes Right and a few other things and cobbled it together and made a decent, you know, atheistic philosophy out of it. It wasn't bad, you know. But Satanism isn't just LaVeyan Satanism. You've got a lot of other forms of Satanism. Some of them are absolutely bad guys. Absolutely. No question. They would happily torture, murder, rape, and kill. Abso-fucking-lutely. And they would do it for less reason than the Christians did. Because you have to realize, Stu, if you go back 500, 600 years, the average Christian who was into that burning people at the stake for some things, they were mainly aiming it at the ones that they thought were dangerous. They were wrong in most cases, yes, but they were being told that they were working with the devil to destroy civilization. So of course they were petrified. They thought they thought they were saving the world when they did that. And I got news for you, Stu. If you don't know this, you got to do more research. Magic wasn't outlawed during that time. You could absolutely do magic. It just had to be a specific kind. You still had midwifery. You still had sacred geometry. You still had Solomonic stuff. You still had magic out the yin yang. It just couldn't be anything that could be even mildly construed to be in league with the devil. And not exactly, Stu. You're thinking about modern Protestants. Ancient Catholics were all about that fire and brimstone, buddy. Why do you think they sold indulgences? Because everybody was petrified of going to hell. See, Stu, no offense, but there's a superficial understanding. And when we look back in the past with a bigoted attitude because we don't like Christians because we got burned by Christians, there's a very strong tendency to blame them all and to be very, stereotypy about it and to not understand the mentality that was in that. I'm not saying it was right, but when we apply presentism to it and we look at those people and what they were doing, if you were transported back into that time, you'd be chanting for them to burn them at the stake too, I promise you. If you grew up in that era, I promise you, Stu, you'd be there throwing old cabbages at the witch too. Guaranteed. Because chances are you would have been indoctrinated into the same fearful dogmas that they were. They weren't bad people. They were misinformed with fearful dogma. So you can blame Christianity as a thing, but the people were victimized by it too. And it wasn't Christianity that did it. It was the church, the politics of the church. Think, why did they burn those people at the stake? Why did they do all that? Well, number one, the Catholic Church will say, we never burned anybody. All we did was excommunicate them. But of course, the law said that if the church excommunicated you, you were burned. So, I mean, it's kind of like we didn't do it though. Ugh. The doublespeak is incredible. But the point here is that you can't blame the religion. In other words, I shouldn't say, you can't blame the spiritual practice for the way the politics of the society and the cult prosecuted it. They wanted to take land from people. They wanted to remove undesirables from society. So let's say you're a wealthy landowner and there's some less wealthy person who has some property that you want. I refer back now to the Salem witch trials, by the way. Wait. Refer back to the Salem witch trials. If you had a piece of property that some lord wanted, they could just be like, hey, you know what? We saw him talking to his cat. And a witch smeller would show up. And a few coins would go into his back pocket. And next thing you know, everybody's a witch that you don't like. It wasn't the religion. It wasn't Christianity. It was the cult and it was the politics. And because they had dogmatized the people into fearful dogma, they went along with it because they really believed that they were saving the world by burning witches. Believe me. They weren't bad people. They didn't know better. Think of the average person in 2020 who was throwing the mask on because they've been indoctrinated by the television 24/7. Now, those people I was annoyed with, but I wasn't mad at yet. The people that are doing it today, I'm mad at because they've had 3 years to learn better and they're still doing it. But back then in the 1400s, 1200s, 1300s, when all of this shit was really at the height, they didn't know better. Most of them couldn't even read. Hate and fear galvanize followers. Exactly, F. Kitty, 100%. Look at politics. Look at politics today. Now, I will say there's a caveat here, and that is that in the modern scenario, there is something to be fearful and hateful of. The New World Order you don't want. And anything that is aligned with that, you should be afraid of. You should hate it. But in the past, it's usually when there's fear and hate being leveled, it's used to galvanize people. Yes, completely. And it's usually based on lies. See, Stu, you have to realize the Christians didn't have a problem with witches. They had a problem with anyone that they wanted their stuff. Anyone who wasn't fitting into society. That's where it comes from. And it's not unique to Christianity. If you fucking do some research, no, I didn't say that fucking like I'm mad at you. I'm just animated. If you do your research, you'll see witch hunts happen everywhere. It's not a Christian thing. It was just a little bit more organized in ancient Europe. But it happens everywhere. It happens today. Go to the South Pacific. Go to India. There are people that you watch your ass, motherfucker. Watch your ass. Because there are people who will go after you. So it's not just Christians. It's very, very fashionable. See, what you guys might not also realize is that, all right, you ready? Some of you guys, this might not be new. Some of you guys, this might be some heavy shit. A lot of you guys don't know this, but half the reason some of you people hate Christianity is because Christianity is part of the foundation of Western civilization. It gives everyone a unified center. And so long as Christianity is functioning as a societal glue, the New World Order can't divide and conquer you as easily. And in America, Christianity was a very, 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 go back into when I was a kid. The Satanic Panic was real back then. It wasn't like it is today, where the reality of it's just kind of cringy and dumb. Back then, it was a fear. Everybody was scared. I challenge anyone, if you're under 40, you don't know. You have no clue. If you're over 40, you got a pretty good clue. Everybody was scared of the satanic. Everybody thought Satanists were real and out there to get their kids, and witches were evil. It wasn't just thumping families. Everybody was scared of it. So my point, though, is that the Christian culture was the glue, the foundation of Western civilization. And so the New World Order, just like when they made it uncool to be patriotic, they started making it uncool to be Christian. If you go back to the Boomer era or Gen X, young Gen X, you could be Christian and cool. You could. Look at the fucking 10 Commandments, dude. I challenge anybody watching the 10 Commandments not to go, you know, that's kind of a cool story. I challenge anybody to go back and watch the old classics, the old Christian classics. Watch Ben-Hur. Watch the story of Jesus, the greatest story ever told. Watch those things and tell me you don't feel something. Tell me they're not moving at least. They're not cringy. They're cool. They're beautiful. Then get to when I was an adult, a young adult. Christianity was like Ned Flanders and dumb and lame. You couldn't be cool and be a Christian anymore. In fact, it was very rare that you could. It became the only thing that you could make fun of without being called a bigot. I challenge anyone here. If you listen, this is why I defend Christians, even though I have nothing but reasons to argue against them. Why do I defend Christians? Because they are being singled out, and they're the only group you can be bigoted about besides just white people in general. They're the only ones you can be openly bigoted about. The only religion you can be openly bigoted about. If you go down the street tomorrow, or if you go online tomorrow to any of the most censorious social media accounts and say all Christians are garbage and must be insert threat here. Obviously, it can't be too bad. Otherwise, you get in trouble just for violence. But all Christians are pieces of shit, and I hate Christians, and I wish they would all die. You're probably not, you're very unlikely. You have to be really inflammatory. You probably won't get any reports or anything happen to your account. But if you put on there something like, all Muslims are terrible, all this are terrible, if someone reports you, you can get a ban. The woke mob is not going to defend Christians. They're going to laugh when you attack Christians. But if you attack Muslims, they're going to jump on you. If you don't see the imbalance there, and you can say, well, Christians deserve it. Do they really deserve it that much? Do all of them deserve it? Does your grandma deserve it? Your grandma was probably Christian. Does she deserve it? Maybe she does. Maybe she beat you. But you get my point. I hope. Don't be a bigot because something happened to you. Don't be a bigot because society says you should be. Try to open your eyes and transcend what they're trying to put into you and instill into you. Evolve past their lies. Learn the history. Learn the truth. Learn to have compassion even for your enemy. You don't have to like them. Sometimes compassion means putting them down. Rabid dogs, one should never suffer a rabid dog to live. Just because I might have compassion for someone who does evil doesn't mean I permit it. And as a follower of a left-hand path philosophy, I don't automatically judge actions or behaviors. It's not so cut and dry. But there are certain things that I can't get past, and that's my own, like pedophilia. Can't get past that one. I can't look at that and go, oh, well, they didn't mean it. You know, child grooming. Can't get past that. That's a rabid dog for me. I can't forgive it. Rapists, murderers, can't forgive it. That doesn't mean that I look at it and go, ah! They're a rabid dog. To me, it's a cut. Like, all right, I've been accused of being a psychopath before because I don't have that same hesitation that other people do. You know, growing up, if someone crossed the line with me, I didn't sit there and go, I'm going to feel bad if I do. No, I don't feel bad. You're a rabid dog. I can go cold like a machine. I don't. If you cross a line with me and you see my eyes go like cold, the only thing saving you is a calculation. It's not a feeling. If you are in my presence and I go cold and you threaten me, the only thing holding back is a logical algorithm, a logical diagram that says if I do this, something bad happens to me. That's why I don't do it. It's not a feeling of, oh, I love you and I don't want to hurt you. Oh, I'd feel bad. I wouldn't feel bad. Once I go cold, I don't feel anything. You're dead to me. I'm not proud of that fact, but it's like when Jordan Peterson says, you're not really a pacifist if you're a weakling or a coward. Okay, I'm a pacifist by choice. I really am by choice. I don't fight people anymore. I haven't raised my fist in anger in years. Why wouldn't I have compassion for Christians, Stu? DH says, reincarnation asks a question. Imagine if you were certain of your past life where your daughters were tied and burned as witches. How could you be compassionate for Christians? That's a ridiculous question. If you have been reincarnated as much as you think, you should have no compassion for anybody because you've been killed by a bunch of stuff. You should hate Asians because you were killed by the Vietnamese in Vietnam. You should hate... Stu, I'm not answering it. If you have this much bigotry in your heart, I won't entertain it. Go ask somebody else. No offense, but I have to rebuke that. It doesn't hold water. You have to face this shadow that you have. You've got a deep, dark shadow there. I don't mean any offense. I'm saying this with brotherly love to you, Stu. You got a deep, dark shadow there of hatred. You hate unconditionally, that's fine. It's your right. But that hate's destroying you. You're blinded by it. And if that offends you, I apologize, but I'm getting a little tired of you trying to get me to get mad at Christians. You're acting like a Christian right now. Do you know that? Yeah, but you're asking that question. It's a pointed question. I can read that. It's a pointed question because you're thinking it. In your mind, in your heart, you're challenging me. How could you like them if you found this out? Now, maybe you want me to teach you. Maybe you're asking me because you're hoping I can set you straight. Maybe. I respect that. I understand that. That's why I'm not hateful of you. I am rebuking it, but I find it petty. I find it very petty. It's not, you don't sound like an empowered person with that attitude. You really don't. You sound like someone who's being ruled by something that you blame others for. You got to get over that. I know it's hard, brother. I do. Why do you think Satanism is a valid path? It's not because you're supposed to end up going into a hateful place and stay there. You're supposed to extricate yourself from the Christian dogmas. Recognize the lies there. And once you've extricated yourself and found yourself as a whole being again, then you can look back and not be in so much of a place where your shadow's ruling you about it. Look, I don't know what happened. Maybe you were abused by, maybe you were that kid that, the priest touched. I don't know. I don't blame Islam for everything that fundamentalist jihadis do. And I don't blame Christianity for everything that the witch burners did. I think that that's a very childish way to look at the world. I really do. Because if I thought that way, Stu, let me ask you this. Let me reverse this question for you. Let me reverse this question for everybody who's mad at Christians for burning Christians at the stake. Why aren't you mad at the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and the Phoenicians and these people who are behind the New World Order? Why aren't you mad at them? Why aren't you calling for the Masons to... Now, obviously, I don't blame Masons because they're mostly fine. 99% of Masons are good people that are practicing a mystery school. But if you don't think that the New World Order isn't in that, you're missing some pieces. Obviously, Masonry today is not that so much, but it's in, trust me, do your research. It's there. The secret societies all practice the same kind of shit that we talk about. If you don't know that they do that, you haven't been doing your research. Stu, if you know it's a lie, why does it get you worked up? Why are you struggling with it if you know it's a lie? Walk away. Abandon that shit. It's tearing you down. And no, you're not getting, I am wound up like energetically, but I'm just, how do I put this? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of people with this kind of mentality. Not tired of you, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this attitude. This is partially what's at fault. It's a divisive mentality. It's a tribal mentality. It puts us in a place not just of iron sharpening iron adversarialism, which is perfectly fine, but destructive adversarialism, self-destructive adversarialism. You're destroying yourself, Stu. I do care. I have compassion for you, even though I don't know you. In my heart, I want you to walk away. I want you to transcend this pain that you're feeling. I want you to get over it. And if I have to be your big brother and yell at you and tell you you're being fucking stupid, I'll do it that way. Or I'll be sweet to you and say, Stu, I get it. They hurt you. My poor friend. They're horrible people. But sometimes a motherfucker needs to be told. You're acting like a fool. Not necessarily you, but you're acting like a fool if you've got this bigoted attitude about it. Why don't you hate the Freemasons and the New World Order? Blah, blah, blah. They're all connected. Why don't you hate... It's just like when that guy got mad at me for voting for Trump because Christians like Trump. It's the same energy, just in a different direction. And I don't want you to fall into that pit, Stu. You've been here a long time. You've been a friend of this channel and me for a long time. I don't want to see you fall off that cliff because it's a bottomless pit, dude. You don't come back from that. Stu, it always will. In another 10,000 years, it'll be something else. Do you ever see that? Fleshy and I love this one. There's an episode of Rick and Morty where there's this entity that sort of takes over everybody and they all become like a group hive mind. And part of the reason why this is good is because it brought peace to this civilization because they finally all saw each other as brothers. But then fucking Rick shows up and gets back together with that entity that's the group hive mind entity and starts distracting it with the relationship problems, and it sort of loses control. And suddenly the people start to remember why they hated each other. It was because one had starry shaped nipples and one had regular, like long nipples. And they all so literally humans are assholes. We will fight over anything. That's probably why we're here on a prison planet, because we are still a violent bunch of morons that like to fling poo over nothing. We like to fight over everything. Oh no, it's the pointy hat tribe. Oh no, it's the round hat tribe. Really? Stop. My point is, you're saying it's still here after centuries, our lives revolve around this crap, then why are you revolving around it right now? Why are you revolving around it? Why not know the truth and then teach better, like I try to do? You don't have to hate them. You can hate the lies, hate the actions. This sounds like a Christian thing, doesn't it? Hate the lies, hate the actions, hate the individuals that are still part of it. But you don't have to hate the collective. You don't have to hate the tribe. You don't have to blame everybody for the actions of a few. That sounds like the woke left to me. That sounds like a bunch of racists to me. Stu, that's a very easy attitude to have when you're looking from the outside. It's a very easy attitude to have. I know exactly why I used to believe the news told me the truth. I used to know exactly why I used to believe the church told me the truth. Because I didn't know better. I wasn't exposed to anything better. And if I was, it was not enough to break through that wall of dogma, of indoctrination. People are indoctrinated, Stu. They're zombified by lies. They can't tell the difference. It's not because of that. They don't have a moral failing just because they can't see. Some do. There does come a point, yes. There does come a point. That's why I do draw a line. There are fundamentalists, the jihadis, right? There are fundamentalists in every dogma of every religion, of every tradition. There's fundamentalist atheists. There's fundamentalist everything. Fundamentalists are the problem, not the people who believe in stuff. There's literally nothing wrong with believing in Christianity. Good night, Atropa. Love you too, sweetie. Hope you're doing good. Give us when you get that thing set up, I keep reading your things. I just have a lot on my plate. I hope you understand. I want to help you with your funds issue. So if you get that thing made, I will promote the hell out of it to get you some help, because I know you're going through some shit. I just can't do it for you because I got a lot on my plate. I will make sure it gets out there. Atropa's going through some hardships, guys. So she could use our help. And when she gets the donation thing set up, I'm going to share it out because she needs some help. So Atropa's been a longtime friend of the channel. So let's make sure she gets help. People are fooled by lies because they're comforting. Not everybody can be like, so for example, someone like me, I'm ahead of the curve. Most people aren't where I'm at. That doesn't mean I judge there's times I do, but I mostly judge the extreme. I don't judge the average person. The average person, for example, that doesn't know about the New World Order, they frustrate me, but I'm not mad at them. It frustrates me that the average person still doesn't get it as much as I do. But the only ones I'm mad at are the extreme left woke types that even when the truth is shoved down their fucking face, they won't get it. Those are the ones that piss me off. The ones who think Biden's a good president. Those people piss me off because if you can't figure it out at this point, you're a rabid dog. But the people who don't quite understand what's at stake and who the good guys are because they still are watching the news and they're confused, I'm frustrated with them, but I don't hate them. They frustrate me because to me it's obvious, but they still haven't had it rammed down their throat right. They haven't been hit in the ass by their own stupid yet. The day will come. It's kind of like anything. The longer you persist in a delusion, the more it's going to hurt when it ends. Usually. Sometimes it's actually more of a relief when it ends, but the more tightly you cling to a delusion is probably the better way to put it. The more tightly you cling to a delusion, the more it's going to hurt when it's finally yanked out of your hands. So these people who don't quite understand what's going on because they haven't figured it out yet, okay, they're just dumb. But the ones who have been shown and they deny it or they don't care, they're rabid dogs. So I hate the woke left. I don't hate the left. If you're into communism, I don't hate you for liking communism. I think that's stupid, but I don't think it's entirely stupid. I get it on some levels. I do. If we lived in a primitive society, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Sounds like a good idea. We need to all pitch in together. Sounds good. You know? I don't hate the principle. It's like anything. Taken to an extreme, everything sucks. Non-duality can be fundamentalist. Did you know that? You can be a fundamentalist non-dualist. Those people are whack. They're nihilistic as fuck. This reality is not real. It's all bullshit. And it's like they have no joy in their life. Because they haven't even attained it. They just learned it and they parrot it. Don't worry, Stu. You're good with me, buddy. It's just my advice to you, brother, is just don't you know what I said. Don't let it turn you into them. Don't let it make you a bigot, my brother. Please don't. Realize that there's a lot of Christians out there that practice magic too. And they're not hypocrites for doing it. Does it not say that ye are gods? Does it not say that with faith the size of a mustard seed, you can tell the mountain to lift and walk towards you and it will? Is that not magic? Is that not permission? The Christian form of magic is simply to put it in God's hands. What is God? Brahman. What's the difference? If you read my own practices, I'm learning the same principle. It's just taught slightly differently. It's not submitting to a higher God. It's surrendering the ego to your higher will. Because your ego is not your higher will. It's an act of higher will. So your ego, this guy saying, I really want that. That's an act. The higher will is what's causing that act. That feeling of desire is an act of will, but it is not the will itself. People confuse their desire for their will. I want that, so therefore it's my will. Nope. Nope. Your will is to want it. But to want it is not your will. Does that make sense? It is absolutely your will to feel the want. But to feel the want, you must not have. And so it must be your will to not yet have it. Because thy will is always done, inevitably. Once it is your will to obtain that, you will have it, whether you do magic for it or not. The ego has no control. Got a buggy in my face. Woo. You know, Stu, I'm going to say one more thing, brother. And this is a positive note. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would have sounded more like you. So I don't want you to think I'm being a hypocrite. If you tune back into some shit, I would have been like, yeah, Christians are dumb and blah, blah, blah. I've almost gotten to the point where I'm willing to start fucking around with Christian magic. Not gonna lie. Almost. I've even opened myself up to angels and stuff. There was a time I wouldn't go near angels because I thought that's Christian shit. I've evolved and learned so much in the last 5, 6 years, 8 years, whatever. I don't know. How long have I been doing this? I don't know. 2018 is when I started doing videos again. Do the math, 5 years. So much has changed for me. None of it's the same. And who knows, maybe in 20 years, I'll say I'm a starseed too. Guys, that's going to be my final comment. It's getting late, and inexpert Zaniel is talking about eating pizza. I do appreciate everybody here, even the ones that I have to disagree with, and that's good for us, Stu. A conversation like that's really good for this channel. And I noticed before I got a super from 2 people. Fuck, I'm sorry, guys. Let me hit those supers real quick. What was it? There was, I bet she's not here anymore. I missed it. I was in the middle of a heated blah, blah, blah. Wasn't Gar. Sauber, Jay Sauber, I missed you, buddy. If you're still here, thank you, pal. Fuck, I wish I'd said thank you before, because you never ask for nothing. You always just give me a $4.99. I never say thank you lately. I haven't even seen it. I'm going to email him. I got to email him later. I haven't emailed him in a while. Patchwork with a $5 bill at the end. Tail Gunner. Hitting the nail on the head with this stream, brother. Sorry for not many replies. Listening while at work. You're good, dude. I still have to finish up that skull for you. It's all done pretty much. I just got to clean it up. And I just got to get my ass in gear because I have ADD out the yang. And I intend to do something, and it always takes me a while. And I will definitely get that out to you. I promise. I just got to get under it. But, you know, I'm sure you don't mind waiting for something good. So don't worry about it, I guess. But hopefully you'll get it. I will probably put it in the mail sometime during the week next week. So hopefully you'll get it sometime after that. I got to figure out the shipping and everything first. So, but yeah, Stu, it's good that we had that, because it's good for other people to listen to, because they get to hear a passionate conversation about it. And they get to hear how a left-hand path person can be rebellious by being kind to people. Did that ever occur to people that we live in an era where being a left-hand path person actually means being nicer to people than average? Because that's the most fucking revolutionary thing you can do. Think about it. All right, that's it. Love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you all for your super chats. I will see you guys next week. Should be good. But pretty soon I'm going to be doing some stuff for about a week, so I won't be around, but I'll let you guys know. But until then, thank you all for the beautiful night, the beautiful stream, killing my voice with all this stuff. And until next time, mind those fucking shadows.